I wanted to have a Christina Henry book in here, and it was a battle between quack quack and quack quack.
This is so funny because my number 8 is
Quack 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 quack.
That's so funny. Man. I can't believe this happened. Quack.
Welcome to the Little Duck Book Club with duck number 1,
Ren, and duck number 2,
Anna. And today we're going through another top list. A long top list, actually. It's 10 favorite books of all time. Though I would like to preface this by saying this list will probably change in a couple of months.
As it was with the favorite characters, this list is necessarily provisionary. We cannot know what characters or books we might like in the future. You know,
you said that so well.
Everything is possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had to do top 10 because even while choosing this, I was like, I can't do 5 books. Are you sure? I cannot do 5 books. When I was like, oh, let's write down my favorites, just like first collection, I was like, this is 20 plus books. I can't do that.
I didn't have that many. I had 16 because I was just going through my mind, through my Goodreads list. And I was like, okay, what like immediately comes to mind? Or first I wrote down those that immediately thought of. Then I went through my shelf, my Goodreads list, and I was like, did I read anything from the library that stuck with me so much?
Yeah.
But I usually buy the ones that I like so much
same.
from the library, so I would have them at home. And then I completely disregarded stuff like mangas because I was like,
I was like, this is also just very different because they're serialized media typically. Like you have short manga runs, like you have some that are only like 5 volumes or whatever, but that's rare. Like any of the ones I really like are like long. Like, my favorite is like 25 volumes.
And then even then I was like, okay, for example with like Naruto or Full Metal Alchemist, it's like I have the ones that were the small ones, but currently at least in Germany they're selling the big ones, right?
Yeah,
so
like
it's
the
like
5 or 10 volumes in one.
So it'd be like, okay, well, do I give chapter? Like,
choose one. That's not, no.
So
I also did not include
completely
that. I was
disregarded
like,
those.
we cannot do this. Especially, I feel like there it's even harder because a lot of them are such like long running series that so many are not finished.
Yeah.
And so much of a story hinges on the ending that it's like, dude, if this crashes and burns, like, a la, I don't know, like Bleach's final like parts or whatever that really like you're like, I don't know if I still like it.
No, I agree. So yeah, just books with texts. That's the list.
I mean, I only have fiction books. I don't know if you have non-fiction on there. I don't.
No, I don't.
It's not that I've never read a non-fiction book I liked. It's just that I don't have brain worms about those, you know.
I was actually thinking about putting one non-fiction book on here. And that's What If? Scientific Answers to Dumb Questions. I love that book. I know there's a second one. I didn't get the second one yet. I also got the how-to, so like how to actually do stuff.
Yeah.
But that What If book was like, this is such a fun way of tackling science and like being like kind of dumb and just exploring stuff. So I did think about putting it on the list, but I didn't. It got kicked off by other books.
Yeah. I mean, the funny part is there is much more nonfiction to which I would attribute to like changing my outlook on the world or whatever, because I don't really get that from fiction, but also I don't feel that strongly about the books themselves. It's more about the information in them. So they're not my favorites. Like it's not.
No, I totally get that. That's why What If was nearly on the list, because I due to the humor of it, I did kind of also was like emotionally connected to it.
That's fair.
Whenever people ask me like, oh, do you have like a nonfiction book? I'm like,
you get the glint in your eyes, you know.
Was it my my sister's husband, I think for him I sticky tabbed some of the stories because like these are the ones you have to read.
Yeah,
because
good ones.
they gifted it to me for my birthday when I was a teenager, and then one time I was like, "Did you ever read it yourself?" And they're like, "No, we didn't." It's like, but yeah, maybe we can talk about the close. What do we call it in the character?
You want to do runner-ups, like honorary mentions first?
Yeah. Do you want to do it now or like in the...
That's a good question because I have some that are honorary mentions as in other books from the series are already on the list and I couldn't put more of them, but they're like on par quality-wise, but I'm not putting them there.
Yeah.
And I have runner-ups on like, I really like this, but it simply is not as near and dear to my heart as all the others on the list. So
that fits with me as well.
Two ones.
Because I also had some of these situations. So let's do the ones that don't fit to other books now. And then the other ones that come up when you show the book and we're like, this one won the war of books to get on the list. Yeah.
Okay. I have quite a few. I don't know how many you have.
I don't have as many. Okay, so this one is connected to another one. Let's go up there. So one that got kicked off the list because I wanted to save that for series was Fatebreaker. It's like the third book from the Realmbreaker series. I love that book to bits, really. But in regards with all the other books, and I was like, but I want to talk about the series as a whole and not just about that book. Got kicked off on my my end. And then I had Erebos, just by Ursula Poznanski. She's a German author. And it's a story that I think that there was another book already like this, or a movie, very popular, about kids interacting with a video game, and that video game kind of breaching the borders between reality and not reality. Yeah. And suddenly they were doing things in real life, dangerous things, lethal things. And I read that in one day, and it was such a joy to read this book, and I loved it. But not as much as the other ones. And then these ones didn't make it because I was like, I really enjoyed reading you, but at the end of the day, I would shudder at the thought of having Sarah J. Maas on my list.
Like, no, this is too embarrassing. We can't put you on the list.
And there was Air of Fire and A Court of Mist and Fury. I like them. I really like them.
Yeah.
Air of Fire, I think, is the best book of the whole Throne of Glass series, simply because I enjoyed that much. It's the only one I have a physical copy of. It's just, it's just Rowan makes it so much better.
It's also like Air of Fire also so heavily benefits from the fact that Sarah J. Maas was like, no, they can't be together immediately. They have to be friends first. And the fact that nothing directly romantic happens in that book is like, wow. She can write building relationships with a slow burn that are fun to read. That's crazy.
And so well. And like, so like, you can understand the emotions, the training montage, basically. Chef's kiss. But again, it's like, you will catch me dead before I have. And then Mist and Fury, because I also really enjoyed that one.
I personally maintain that I think A Court of Mist and Fury is probably the best book Sarah J. Maas has ever written, published. Yeah. And I do like it the most out of everything she's written, but it's nowhere near my favorites.
That's why I was like, listen, guys, I liked you, but you're not making it.
I get when people like really, really like it because the elements in it that I like, I really, really, really like. But there's also a bunch of hangers-on stuff that just comes with a Sarah J. Maas book where I'm like, I don't need this. There's things that are much better than this.
And the last one, which was also like, it was more like I did really like this, but The Love Hypothesis from Ellie Hazelwood.
Oh my god. I would have killed you though. You would not have survived this. I would have been like, no, you can't mean that.
That didn't make it. Again, because I enjoyed it so immensely. It was such a fun read for me, but at the same time it was a bit too stupid. So those were the books that didn't make it on my list that are not connected to other books.
I think that's interesting because my top 10 does contain a bunch of books that are from my favorite series, because I was like, no, I just like them that much. I can't take them out of here because that would be disingenuous to the list, you know? So there are a bunch of like standalones mostly that I had to cut eventually because I had so many books. The first one is Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. It's I think it's more a novella than a full book. It's about basically a home for children who went to portal fantasy realms and came back and now struggle to deal with the real world again, because a good number of them didn't want to come back or they experienced traumatic stuff. And the fun part about it is that this one is also a murder mystery, and it has an aro ace main character, which I really enjoyed because there's not that many of them out there, unfortunately. But like, no, it's really good, and it has like a fun genre discussion about like, what does happen to those protagonists who come back from their portal. And I know the series has more books, but I've always been reluctant to get them because the library doesn't have them, and they are very short, but they're expensive because they only come in hardcover copies. So it's like the ratio of money to book content is just not.
I know.
I look at it and I'm like, I don't know. But I would be really curious to read the rest too. But yeah. The next book on my list that also didn't make it is This Savage Song from V.E. Schwab. It's the first in a duology in it's called The Monsters of Verity, I think. And it's about basically a world in which, if people commit, not crimes, but like morally bad behavior, it creates monsters from that. Like they manifest from the bad things you do.
That's cool.
And yeah, it's kind of like a dystopia, and you have two main characters. It's like the city, and then the dystopia is like divided. On the one side, you have like the evil guy who has like a deal with a bunch of the monsters and can control them. On the other hand, you have a guy who's like a doctor and trying to help everyone and all of that. And you have two main characters, children from like each of the families, the daughter of the a bad guy, and the more main character, I guess. I think his name is August. I don't really remember, but he is. He's not actually a human. He's one of the monsters. Like he's one, because the worse whatever like shit you do is, the more powerful the monster that's created from it. And he's one of the super humanoid ones that only come to be when like a real atrocity has been committed. I think he was born from like a kindergarten or primary school class being murdered, like all of them dying, and that's where he came from. And like when he came to, he was also just a boy, so the doctor adopted him and raised him as like a son. And there's this really fun interplay of like him and his father, who are not technically related but have like really strong family relationships. On the other hand, you have the girl and her father, who have a terrible relationship because he does not give a shit about her at all. And it's very fun and interplay, and just like the monsters are fun, and it is really engaging. The second book is much less good, unfortunately, but yeah, no, I like it a lot, but I'm also not crazy about it, so it didn't make it.
It didn't make it. Yeah.
No.
But that sounds like a fun concept.
Yeah, no, I would recommend them, especially the first one. The first one has kind of an open end, like you don't need to read the second one, but the second one's also not bad. It's just not as good as the first one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Next book that didn't make it is Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. I love ghosts. I love it. I know you heard
How
that.
dare you?
It just barely didn't make it, but I was like, I love this a lot. It's very engaging. It's funny. It has so much I love, but also I'm not insane about it. You know, like it's unfortunate, but that's just that's how it goes. I had to make room for all the serious.
Yeah.
But if I just done standalones, it probably would have made it on the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very cute. I love ghosts in stories. I think they're so fun.
I just love that book.
Yeah, another one that didn't make it is Circe by Madeline Miller, which I also love a lot. It's so good. It's such a good book.
I'm so happy that you enjoyed it more than I did. I was like, it was really good, but and then hearing you rave about it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I really like it. I would have to also reread it again now, years later, to see if I still love it as much. I certainly liked it more than Song of Achilles. I thought Circe was a much stronger like character study because she's just way more interesting than the Patroclus from Song of Achilles.
I enjoyed Song of Achilles, but I still have beef with the fact that they Twinkified Patroclus. Like I'm like, that makes me a bit angry, not gonna lie. But
Yeah,
I agree
fair.
that Circe...
I mean, that's super fair, yeah.
I agree that Circe is... I was struggling with that it was all stationary on one island. I get that that's her thing, unfortunately for her. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if Circe as a character isn't super compelling to you, then it's just not as engaging. Which, you know, that's fair. We all have different blorbos, you know. And I respect that, and I really liked it, but yeah, it also didn't make it. I am not insane enough about it to put it on my list.
Now I am super excited to see what actually made the list.
And another book that didn't make it barely was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which is also really good. Yeah. It's like a post-apocalypse story where you have a lot of point of view characters, and it's fascinating how all of them are connected through, in some way, this one comic written by a woman before the apocalypse, which is called Station 11. That's also where the name comes from. And it's so fascinating to see how their stories interweave and like how they relate to each other. It's just, it's really good and character driven, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah, you talk about it a lot as well.
It probably hits kind of different because the post-apocalypse was a pandemic, so I feel like now reading it, I don't know if I would want to read it. I know I told you like 2 years ago, I was like, I mean, it's really good, but also I don't think this is the right moment for reading.
Honestly,
the vibes are off.
Yeah, you're talking again about Station 11. One book I did consider, but I didn't even make the sticky tab, was Wilder Girls by Rory Power. And it had, like, because we talked about, like, reading books that you shouldn't read at the start of a pandemic.
Yeah.
That was also one,
Yeah, and then the last one that also didn't make it is The Golem and the Ginny from Helene Wecker. This one's also really good. I really liked it. It's it has like a huge ensemble cast. It's like magical realism set in, I think, 1920s New York. Somewhere near like turn of the century. And obviously you have one character who's like a golem, like in the really in the Jewish myth kind of way, like traditional golem, and you also have the genie, but you also get a lot of insight into a lot of like people who have immigrated into New York and how like those communities like intersect, and it's just really good because you have so many interesting characters, and you can see how like the story interweaves all of them and how small actions from one person like influence everyone around them. It's just really good, man.
Now I'm really curious about the list.
I would totally recommend it if you're up for like slow-paced, character-driven stories that really are not that much about, like, obviously the golem, which is a girl, like she and the genie are the main characters kind of, but also you have so many other chapters from other people's point of view. it's so interesting.
That sounds so
But
good,
yeah,
though.
that's my guys who just barely didn't make it.
You barely didn't make it.
They got axed. Yeah.
I feel like
As I
already...
said, I had too many books. I had such a long
already
list.
your quality of books that didn't make it, as much... There was one book that I striked it out. I was like, I cannot put that on here, which I'm gonna keep secret now that I've heard your
Fair enough.
stellar list.
I mean, honestly, like I'm not making it. You put this out there. You can tell me in private, or you can keep it secret forever. And
I wanted to keep it secret for also a top 5 series.
Ooh,
Because I was like, this book out of the series I'm attached to emotionally for other reasons than it being good.
Mm.
So the whole series is something I'm quite thick with. So that's it's not gonna be a secret forever. We're gonna talk about it Sunday.
Now I'm curious. Okay.
I have
Keep your secrets.
I have all my books right here. Do you
Ooh,
wanna?
You even brought them. I didn't do that.
Yeah, cause like visualizing them before me, I was like looking at it like, do I really want you? That helped.
Fair.
Because I made some last minute changes to the order and stuff.
Mm.
Okay, do you want to start or should I start with number 10?
You started with your runner-up, so I feel like you can also start here.
Number 10 is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. In place 10. This is a quite recent book I've read. And it waltzed into my heart, and I really, really like the story. I don't know if I need to
I don't think you need to. I feel like everyone like either knows like the movie or the book. Yeah. And like the premise is very similar, even though the execution ends up very hilariously. Howl's Moving Castle was also on my preliminary list, but then I struck it very fast because I was like, it's good and I love it, but it's not... I'm not that emotionally attached to it. I do love it. It's amazing. I would recommend it. Yeah. But it's not like a personal favorite to the same degree as other ones.
Yeah. I know when I read it, I thought a lot about like sibling, especially sister interactions. I do have an older sister. I'm the younger sister. And there's a lot of talk about sisters and how like the order in which you're born impacts your life and all that kind of stuff. And I also talked with my sister about it because I finished it shortly before she visited me. So we also talk a lot about that one in the book. And I don't know, I like it. Now that I've read the book, I like the story more than the way that they did it in the movie, simply because Sophie is much more feisty and just accepting, like, okay, what the fuck, okay, whatever.
I also, like, on the one hand, obviously, the movie is taken over by Miyazaki's anti-war message, like, halfway through. That too. But also, I don't like what they did with The Witch. I was like, oh, do we really need to bring out the fat phobia for this one? Really? Like, cool. Knowing that in the book, this is not at all like that, I was like, damn, why did you do it in... That's the movie. That's so...
The witch surprised me positively in the book. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is a lot more fun than it's in the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't say it's as dramatic, especially like the end fight in quotation marks is not as dramatic as you have the final confrontation in the movie, but I like it that way. And yeah, I just liked it. It barely made the list on place 10, but that's also because I've only had it for a couple of weeks. I think if I reread this, read the other Sophie Howell books, or like the books in the, if you can call it a series, there are side characters there, I'm gonna enjoy it even more. I'm gonna put this now over here.
That's cute. No, I also really liked it. I liked it more than the movie too. I think book Sophie is just so much more than movie Sophie, and she also, and because of that, her relationship with Howell is also more.
I also love their relationship.
You cannot beat mysterious sorcerer is like Fail's son who came from Wales. Like, come on, you can't beat that. This is the funniest shit you could do.
I love that one. I think Sophie has to get to your first point. Sophie has so much more spunk in the book.
Yeah.
So much more backbone. We like in the movie, old Sophie has that too, but younger Sophie in the movie is more like this hopeful, naive girl, and in the book, young Sophie is very aware of like how the world works. You know, she's just a little bit of a doormat. You know.
Yeah, it is. I understand why, because the movie just also has like a different setting in a way, and like, you know, that's fair. It's going for something very different than the book. But yeah, no, I will always love the book a bit more, even though the movie is iconic, you know. But
yeah, and I also love their relationship more because in the end they look at each other and they go, yeah.
I also love in the book the foreshadowing of, was it Casper being like, oh no, you can tell the only time he'd leave like the home without primping and preening himself to perfection would be if he were in love, and it's like, aw.
Guess what?
It's so cute.
That's just.
There's
so many things about this book that I love.
The book, it is so cute. My number 10 is very different and also different from everything else on the list, basically.
Really? Ooh.
It's Drachenreiter by Cornelia Funke.
Oh, it's so cute.
It's one of my like childhood favorites. I love dragons, and it's such a cute book.
Yeah,
but
it is.
But it's also just like, I love it so much.
No, I totally get that.
I'm like, it's such a classic. It's my favorite Cornelia Funke book. I think like it's just so good.
Just she herself is just such a good author.
She is so good.
She's good at weaving like a story, you know.
And she's also good at balancing like the fun magical bits with like really really dark shit in her books. Like
what's it in English? Inkheart?
Inkheart, yeah.
The Inkheart books, they get dark pretty quickly.
That shit gets dark, yeah. But like Drachenreiter also has like some really really dark parts where you're like, oh my god, okay, that's crazy, man. I never got into Die Wilden Hühner because I wasn't into non-fantasy books. It just didn't interest me. I was like, I don't care.
I only watched the movies as a child, but also not as like a super faithful thing, but more like everybody watches.
I think I only watched one of them. I was a Die Wilden Kerle kid because my brother I did watch those instead.
It's like a character test for children in Germany.
Yeah,
it's like a Hühner child or cat child.
The two genders.
And for the horse girls, it's like, did you watch Bibi and Tina? You know, it's the But no, Drachenreiter, I totally get. It's such a cute one.
It's so good. I recommend it to everyone.
Is there an English translation for it?
Maybe. I mean, Cornelia Funke is very widely translated compared to other German authors, so I could imagine that it's also available. But even if not, you need to learn German to read it. This is your assignment.
So many people are learning German or like trying to read German books right now because of Max and Hall, like the Amazon Prime show of that one German romance book series. So use those skills and read Drachenreiter as well.
Yeah. I would be so offended if the fucking, Ruby Red, like if that series got translated widely, and if Drachenreiter didn't, I would be like, I am killing. This is my Joker moment.
This is your villain origin story. Better not look it up. Better leave yourself.
I'm not checking. I believe in it. Because Inkheart got translated, and I think Drachenreiter was very popular for Cornelia Funke, so I would expect it. I will believe it. I believe it. In my brain, I'm like, it's true.
It's true. being Delulu is the Salulu in this case. Okay. My book number 9 is Mockingjay.
Ooh.
From Suzanne Collins. This, I guess, is a controversial opinion, and whenever I talk with my friends about the trilogy, everybody loves Catching Fire the most, and I get why people do. I just don't. I like Mockingjay.
This is so funny because my favorite is the first one.
The first.
I often like first books the most because I feel like they're often like the setup is so interesting, and a lot of endings kind of don't quite land.
You don't like the endings.
And a lot of second books suffer from being the second book. But some of them are also better than the rest. Like a rare example, like the Grisha trilogy, the second book is by far the most interesting and fun
Mist and Fury. Also.
Yeah, that's true.
But with Hunger Games, I would say if I had to sort them for myself, I'd say third book, first book, second book. Because I like the first book as well, a lot. The second one, a lot of interesting characters get introduced. Loved it. I was just very annoyed that we go through a Hunger Game again. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah, I think that's what people are excited about because they're like, no, I want to see more children die. They
were like, oh, I want another one. And I was so happy in Mockingjay when that didn't happen. And I love Katniss's inner thoughts, her way that she's dealing or also not dealing with her emotions and the trauma that happens to her. I love the symbolism of the third book. It's a bit cheesy in the end with the, who am I going to shoot with? But it's iconic, in a certain sense.
It is iconic, absolutely.
It is iconic. And I love Peeta in the third book. The way that his character is handled and like the relationship, and
I think he gets some really much needed depth in the third one.
I love Mockingjay.
That's super valid. I have more complicated feelings about it, mostly because I read it when I was too young to really get it. If you read it too young, you're like, I don't understand politics. Why is this happening? Like, I don't get it. And I was also personally put off by like the very last part of the epilogue, where she's like, oh, Peeta convinced me to have children. I was like, oh, I hate this. And like, this is like tarnished every part of it for me. I understand that that's like, it's not meant that way, but to me it's still like,
to you it felt like that.
To see a character who was very against having children and then be like, oh no, I changed my mind. I was like, dude, really?
To be fair,
we have to do that?
She's against having children in this world. She's like, I would never do that to a baby, to a child, to a human. Put them.
Yeah, but also she's not the nurturing type anyway.
No,
so I was like, I'm glad we get to have, like, I was so delighted to finally have like a female character who is absolutely not interested, and then be like, oh no, she definitely has kids, don't worry about it. But again, I read it very young, so like I didn't think about the implication. I just read that and was like, I hate you.
That's such a valid reaction when you're reading it when you're like, you read it when you were like 12, right? That's so valid. I read it when I was, I think we already tried to calculate when I read these books. I think it was like 15 or 16 or something.
Yeah, which is a much better age for, which is more appropriate. Yeah. There's also something where I would say it's not the violence of the books that's inappropriate or like not recommended for younger readers. It's just that there's a lot of thematic and political load-bearing stuff in those books that you just don't get if you're younger, because you don't give a shit. Like, maybe there's, like, exceptional younger teenagers who are interested, who might get it, but, like,
not that young.
I don't think the average younger reader really gets it, and I understand why they would then be like, I don't get the hype. I don't like the third book or whatever, which, like...
As, like... A teenager,
maybe, if you don't get it, you don't get it, man.
But as a tween, I think that's too young to get.
Yeah, no, again, like, the violence isn't gratuitous. I think it's very interesting because, like, obviously the books are critiquing the kind of spectacle media makes out of death and, like, violence. So it would be kind of hilarious if the books also fell into... this and like make it gratuitously like violent. A splatter fest or whatever, and like that's the point, right? Like, it's not crazy violent or whatever, the interesting part is like the psychological angle for most of it, which again a lot of 12-year-olds are not getting, and I also didn't get.
That's why I love the third book. A lot of the more fucked up mental stuff happens there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if I reread them now, which they're kind of on my list but not like a priority, I would probably also like it a lot more than when I first read it. Then probably I also assume that the third one will likely be my favorite, just because it does have the most interesting stuff going on.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Exactly. But enough of my number 9. Who is your number 9?
My number 9 is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. First Naomi Novik book. I wonder how many more will be.
Should we implement a counter? Like, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. I wonder. But yeah, Spinning Silver is... It's high fantasy. It is only very loosely... inspired in like one character's aspect by what's it called, the fairy tale where the girl spins gold, like she makes the deal with the
Rumpelstilzchen.
Yeah, right. Rumpelstilzchen.
Rumpelstilzchen.
Skin. Yeah. It's basically that's just like one little part of it. We have a main character. We have theoretically 3 main characters, but the character we open on, who has like the spinning silver theme going on, is she's a Jewish girl in Russia, I think. Like, it's Russia adjacent. It's very I think it's medieval. I don't really remember, but it's like not,
towards the
not
east somewhere.
Imperial Russia or whatever. It's like something like that. Somewhere in the Slavic countries. I don't remember, or if it's even set specifically. It is a fantasy version, obviously. And she is given fairy silver from, a fae, or, a spirit. It's
like a fantasy
folklore creature that, is connected to magic. And she has to turn that into real silver, basically. Oh. So she goes to a smith who transforms it into stuff they sell. Yeah. And because she does that several times, like the magic basically accepts that she's able to turn silver to gold, because she gets gold coins back for it. So that like in the fairy realm, then she has that power, which is really cool. Oh. And which is why the fairy king like came to her and like offered, like gave her the silver and told her turn this into gold,
Yeah, and she just sells it for stuff, and then
like she goes to a smith she knows, and like he makes cool shit out of it, which is then bought by the lord who lives around there. And the second main character is that lord's daughter, who then receives these like magical silver jewelry things. I think the first is a ring, then there's a necklace and a crown at the end. And they make her, like, supernaturally beautiful and attractive. And she gets engaged to a nobleman out of, like, who's from far away. And it turns out he's possessed by an evil demon. Which is really fun. Who is, like, trying to cram himself into, like, the fairy world to, like, eat all of them and their energy and their silver and stuff. And he's repelled by gold, which is why the fairy king went out to get someone who can make him more gold,
so they can
for protection. Yeah,
it's like garlic.
Like
for vampires.
There's a lot of fun stuff going on, and there's also like fun elements with like the main character's family, because she then has to go and introduce her husband to them. which like there's just so much fun stuff going on. It's just very like interesting. I love it. I love her writing. It's just so engaging, and I love how she does like the fantasy vibes of, it's the folklore kind of fantasy with like more the soft rules with the metaphorical fantasy aspects. That's not like a hard magic system, because I think they often get like overly mechanical and boring.
Yeah.
But like, no, that's just like all the relationships are really fun, because like you have the main character and like the Winter King. Like he's very fun. Like what they have going on, because it's very antagonistic at the beginning, but then it does get better later on.
Yeah.
Like that's super fun. Then you have the like she's not a princess, but like her and the guy she's supposed to marry, because like the guy isn't all bad, but the demon really sucks. But you can't get rid of the demon without help. So she also has like this fun like enemies kind of thing going on with her husband, and at the end like they work together. There's also another woman who becomes the first main character's bodyguard when she you know, because her family does like money lending, and when she has to go around collecting the money back and plus interest, she does need somebody who's like tall and strong to look menacing. And she also helps, and it's just it has everything I like. It's just
like
very
a checklist of things.
And it's just delightful. I love it.
That's cool. I feel really bad that I haven't read a Naomi Novik book yet.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know if you would like them as much. It's just Naomi Novik has the same taste as me, it's so like I love what she writes. It's for me specifically. But like, I don't know if other people would like them as much. Yeah. Like, she is like a really popular author, so I assume other people also like what she's doing, but I don't know if they're like... Naomi Novik and me, we're on the same wavelength. We're like, we like the same tropes. We like the same
chilling together
vibes. It's she gets me.
Okay, first book. We've got to count now. How many you pull out of your sleeve. My number 8 was one that was battling with another book, and it won out. And it's Near the Bone by Christina Henry.
Ooh, they were in the trenches.
I wanted to have a Christina Henry book in here, and it was a battle between Lost Boy and Near the Bone.
This is so funny, because my number 8 is Lost Boy.
No!
That's so funny. Man. I can't believe this happened. Crazy.
So I'm going to tell you why Near the Bone is better. No. I love Lost Boy. We've gushed about the book in the episode itself, right? Stellar. Near the Bone, I wouldn't say... It's one of the horror books. It's not like a fairy tale adaptation. Yeah. It's about a girl or a young woman who lives in the woods with her husband, who is significantly older than her. And through her perspective, we find out that he's not a kind man. And she finds in the wood trails of a big bear. And she's like, oh shit, that's a big fucking bear. She finds his prey bloody all over the floor. And she's scared of the bear, but also of her husband. What will happen if she tells him about this bear? Should she tell him about the bear? And that kind of spins this very, like... the devil you don't know versus the devil you don't story that I love so much about the book. And I love the cryptid vibes of it, like you know, the movies that have the shaky cam. There's like a troll movie where they hunt for trolls in Norway.
The cryptozoologist gang, like you know, if they're I don't think their camera makes it, but if it did, you would have like the found footage aspect.
I don't even remember if they have a camera. They definitely film with their phones, I think. But I don't remember.
I also don't remember, but I'm pretty sure they don't actually have footage when they're going, like when they're leaving.
No, there's not a trace. Yeah. But this book did something to me. All of Christina Henry books do something to me, because I always read them or finish them in the middle of the night because I can't stop reading them. Yeah. This one really did a number on me. I constantly think about it. I always recommend it to people. I have gifted this book to 2 people for their birthdays because I'm like,
damn, okay,
read it. You know? So
it is really good. No, yeah.
I don't know. This
I do
really
get you. I also
something.
think it is really good.
Yeah.
Like I also really like it.
It's so funny that on place 8 you
Yeah, we're both Christina.
so talk about your place 8. Talk about your Christina Henry book.
What book could it be? But yeah, no, Lost by Christina Henry. We have
So
talked
good.
very long about this.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a whole episode.
It's just only
But
love
yeah,
for this
it
book.
is a horror take on what it's like to have been a lost boy that Peter Pan collected in a, you know, I wouldn't call it more realistic because, like, obviously it's fantasy. Like, no version of Peter Pan is more realistic than the other. But in a version that explores what if Peter Pan was fae-like and ancient, and he looked like a boy, and often he behaved like a boy.
Yeah.
But there were just enough moments where you, as a young boy, look at him and you realize he is not like you, and he doesn't care about you as a person, but as entertainment.
I think Faye, like what you said, really hits it on the, like
in the folkloric fae sense, not in the they're just sexy elves, you know, version.
In the Legolas.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's really good. I think I like Near the Bone a lot too, but I feel like for me a lot of my favorite books have this where I'm like, it's the characters that really speak to me. Like, I would say Near the Bone is definitely a better horror book, but also Lost Boy isn't trying quite as much to be a horror book. But also, like, I love this Peter Pan. I love the concept of him. Like, just the setup of the Lost Boys and everything it's so good. It lives in my brain rent free, which is why I recommended this book so heavily to you. I was like, if you're reading a Christina Henry, you need to read this one. It's so good.
I have to say, in Lost, I mean, you constantly, I wouldn't want to spoil, but you constantly have this feeling like this is definitely true. He did this thing. Like, there's no way around it. You start the suspicion in the beginning. It's like, oh, wouldn't that be crazy if he did that? And then slowly, all the story, like, he definitely did it. And the moment your main character finds out he did that, as a reader, you were already prepared for it, but it's still, it's like this moment.
It's also
that was
so interesting because you started out like, and just the first scene, and you immediately feel like there's a shoe about to drop, but nothing has happened.
It's not dropping until like,
and you sit there, and like somebody like has the shoe by the laces and like keeps letting go, but then gripping back on. Like, you see, and you're like, oh god, the shoe's dropping, and you're like, damn, not quite. And then they lift it back up, and then
that's what I felt like with Near the Bone as well.
Yeah,
like I was constantly like, she is gonna die now. She's gonna lose a limb or something.
Yeah,
something is gonna happen to her. Unfortunately, don't know by whom, because her whole like environment is
she has like, no good choices.
she, literally like nothing. Just Christina Henry. If you don't miss and you actually hit, which you do quite often, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, it is like even the books that she's written where the premise is not super engaging to me, I have been engaged with the book. Even if I didn't like the ending, I was still engaged, you know?
It's like, I have been engaged. Yeah, no, she does that. Whenever I tell people, read this book, it's gonna make you uncomfortable. They're like, why would I read it? I'm like, no.
It's a good kind.
It's a good kind of uncomfortable. You'll feel engaged. You'll feel happy.
Yeah. No, she's so competent and she's so good at what she's doing. I feel like the book where I've been about it was like where it was like, oh, we need a twist because otherwise it's too predictable, but the twist was not, I did not like it would have been better without the twist.
in Near the Bone.
No,
Or,
in Horseman. I think Near the Bone was very consistent and very good. I think that one hit very well.
Yeah.
But like Horseman, I was like at the end I was like, dude, why did you do that? We did not need this. We could have just played it we did not need this.
Yeah, I'm so interested.
And from what you've said of Good Girls Don't Die, there is also going to be a twist where it's like, maybe we didn't need
I'm so interested in what you have to say about that book. I'm very curious.
Yeah, I'm so excited to read it.
Okay, let's get to my number 7. And the reason why I gave you such a stern eye quite a couple of minutes ago is because my number 7 is West Virginia.
Yeah.
This was another one where I was kind of struggling because I love Margaret Rogerson. And it was like, is Sorcery of Thorns? Nah. No. Nah. So I was like, no, it's Vespertine.
Yeah, you were doing the kombucha girl thing. You were like...
In like a loop, you know, for 10 minutes. I was like, I had both of these books in front of me. I was like, It's like, I love this one. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the lack of romance. I love the two torturous souls finding each other. If you do not know what this book is about, we have Artemisia, our main character, who is a bit of a loner, a very introverted, reclusive person, and she, due to involuntary circumstances, has to share her mind, her body, with something that they just call a revenant, like a very old, powerful, evil spirit. And in the good olden days, they were able to combine powers of these revenants with these nuns, which she is one of, to fight even bigger evil than the revenants, you know. And she is now in the position where she has to do that. And she has a lot of trauma and demons from her own past. She has a demon inside of her mind right now who also struggles with things that happened to him, unfortunately. And it's just, I loved it. I loved the little remnant guy. He's such a cutie.
I love him too. He is so good. I love ghosts, and I love cranky old men befriending cranky young women. I think that's amazing.
That's like such a good trope. I love it.
It's such a fun, like, the buddy, like, you know, like experience. They're going on a road trip. Cop. They're having a terrible time, but, you know.
But they're living through it, both. No, I really love it. I also really like the fact that there's no, like, very obvious romance in it. There's like they're alluding to it at some point.
There is a setup which could develop into the romance somewhere in the future. Yeah. But
I don't know if they ever will write. If there's ever
I don't need it. Like, I mean, obviously, if there's like a sequel novella, like for
Sorcery of Thorns,
Sorcery of Thorns, but it's just like you don't need it. I don't know. The ending is perfectly suited to the book that it is. Yeah. And like, if you want more, use your fucking brain. You don't need the author to give you a sequel, because like thematically there isn't really room for a sequel. There's no need for one.
Yeah, no need is I think a very good. And the irony about the fact that I only got this book when I was at Barnes and Nobles, because they have like a book of the month thing that's 50% off, and they also had a thing where it's like 4 books for the price of 3 or something. Like there was a sale thing going on. Buy 3 get 4 or something. And I was like, oh, this has Charlie Bowater on the cover.
That's the reason why. You were seduced by her work. Dude.
And rightfully so. The fact that I enjoyed this so much. This was also the first book that I allowed myself to just go ham with my nonsensical annotations in pencil. Yeah. Like, I just opened a page and it says, why is this funny? And Nanny Ghost. And such a dork. These are the comments I put in this book, and that's just made it so much more joyful. Yeah.
My reading experience was also greatly enhanced by reading your copy and being like, yeah. This is also what I would say here.
Yeah, because somewhere during the second third, I didn't put that many comments in, and then towards the end, I'm like, question mark? A couple of pages later, oh yeah, they answer my question right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. That's why it's on the list. It's very dear to me.
Very valid pick, honestly.
That's why when you said it didn't make the list, I was like,
no, it just didn't.
I know.
It needed to not be on the list so I could fit more Naomi Novik books on it.
Okay, and tell me,
Yeah.
is it Naomi Novik number 2?
No.
Oh,
it is not. Don't worry, we'll get to that. The next book is, it's basically, it's interchangeable. It could be any book from the series. It's a trilogy. It's the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. So it could either be The Bear and the Nightingale, it could be The Girl in the Tower, or The Winter of the Witch, because they're all really, really, really good.
I've heard so.
That's
like,
another series where I'm like, wow, Catherine Arden gets me. We like the same things. Everything about this was like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted from this setup. I am so happy you delivered me specifically tailored to my taste. Thank you.
It's like when you find the perfect dish just served for you.
It's so good. The story is about Vasya. She is born into a family. It plays in Russia. It has like a lot of Russian folklore intertwined. It's very magical realism in a historic setting vibes, and she can see and communicate very well with the folkloric creatures that live around, because not everyone can see it. The series deals a lot with the power of belief and how the supernatural basically only exists as much as you believe in it, and something can only affect you in as much power as you give it, basically. Yeah. So we have these folklore creatures who cannot enter the Christian church because it's filled with a different kind of belief and stuff. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on there. And yeah, I will forever think that the title of the first book is very funny, because the bear is important to the story. He's like the antagonist in a lot of the series, but the nightingale is just a horse. Like it's a folklore.
Don't say that.
It is a nightingale, but it is also a horse called Nightingale. Like it is both. It can shapeshift. It's like a magical creature, but it's like, it is her horse and it's cute. I like it, but it's also not that important to the plot of the first book, which makes the title very funny.
Is it a nightingale first and then it turns into a horse? Or is it...
It was born as a nightingale and then it was turned into a horse. But in the more magical realm parts of the world, it can also turn back into the nightingale. Was
it turned into a horse by force? Like somebody cursed the nightingale?
No, it's not cursed. The nightingale is not upset about this. The nightingale is having a great time. It loves being both a nightingale and a horse.
And a horse.
It's having a good time. It's very content. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
The nightingale is not upset.
Like,
it's very happy being a horse. And also a bird sometimes.
In
the more like real grounded world, it's always a horse. But in the magic part, it can be a nightingale. It's very funny.
I haven't watched this show yet, and since you don't watch shows a lot either, I don't think you have. But there's this new like fantasy history kind of show. I think it's again on Amazon, where it's like, what happened if one Jane somewhere in the history of England did not get beheaded. And there's like a huge fantasy aspect to it. And the main love interest, the guy, he also turns into a horse. So it's just like, there's this scene. And I was like, at first I thought, oh, it's like this historic thing with a little bit of spice in it, But it's actually a fantasy show. And they have like, I don't even know if they have their first night or something, but afterwards he's like, you have to leave now. And she's like, I'm not leaving you, because they're having a discussion or something. He's like, no, the sun is coming up. They're in a barn, the light comes in, and then he turns into a fucking horse. And she's like,
so funny.
What the fuck just happened? My man turned into a horse. And then his like advisor comes in and he's like, all right, we're gonna have this conversation now, since he's a horse and he can't talk to you. He's a horse. So when you said, oh, it's a nightingale, consider the horse. Name is Nightingale, but it also is a nightingale. It turns into a horse. I just had to think of that scene. That I saw.
It's like it's one of those things where like the name defines a thing, but it can also be other thing. You know, like as its core, as an essence, it is the nightingale, and like it keeps its personality. But for the majority of the story, it is like a horse. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's in the title because it's still like a
it is. It does do so, but it's not nearly as important as the bear, because like the bear is basically like a personification of like chaos and destruction, but also life. And on the other hand, you have Morozko, who is like the personification of winter and death and stillness, who is also the love interest, because Catherine already gets me. He's great. But like he and the bear, they are brothers who are like basically infinitely fighting, because obviously like life and death and chaos and stillness are like forever like in conflict.
Is he also a bear, the brother, the love interest? He's okay.
No.
Is he something other cool thing?
He's like a cool guy.
He's just a dude. Okay.
I don't. Yeah, he can do like cool magic stuff. You know.
Okay. Yeah,
no,
I've heard a lot about this.
But the bear is also not always a bear. For like a lot of the story, he is also a guy. He can also turn into a bear, but like he is also
a guy. Also magical dude. I've heard a lot about this series.
It is again. I'm just like it's really good. The writing is really, really compelling. You have really interesting characters. Like you have Basia, and then you also have she's working with Morozko against like the bear, and the bear has also his kind of chosen. I think Constantine, who's a priest, and there's the fun part where like the bear like makes Constantine believe he's like God speaking to him. Like there's this whole fun thing. Like there's a lot of fun thing. And Constantine is like, he's obsessed with Vasya. He has like a
thing.
Yeah, he's such a normal guy, man. Like no, he's such a hateable antagonist, but he also has his pathetic moments. So you're like, wow, yeah, he is also pathetic, which is like some people are into that, I guess.
Yeah.
But he also has like a really interesting like relationship to the bear, like especially later on, where it's like, oh, he's also not quite just a tool anymore, but like there's something deep. And you have like a lot of folklore, other characters turning up. I don't remember if Baba Yaga shows up, but Koshi shows up. You have like the Firebird. There's like a lot of stuff that happened, and it's really good. It's just, and it has such a satisfying conclusion, which is why I can't pick a favorite book, because there's so much interesting stuff that happens in each of them. Like I love her, like in the first book we also see like her growing up and what shapes her into the person she becomes. But then in the second book you also have so much interesting stuff happening, like where she for part of it disguises herself as a boy and like befriends the Prince of Moscow and stuff. There's like a lot of political intrigue. And then the third book has like a fun finale stuff going on, and it's really satisfying, and it's just like there's just so much in all of, like they're all really good. So it's like
snuck in
the 7 is interchangeably any of those, basically.
I see. It's like a 7.1, 0.2, 0.3.
Yeah. It's like place favorite from the series here.
No, that's understandable though. It's quite valid. Which number are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My number 6 is The Martian by Andy Weir.
Ooh, a classic.
A classic. I it's no secret I love science fiction, and I actually didn't start reading science fiction until late teens, because I feel like there isn't a lot of cool science fiction for young teenagers around. Maybe I'm uneducated, but I
think like a lot of what is advertised or like what's talked about is a lot of the classic sci-fi stuff from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, which is probably not appealing, especially not to a young teenage girl, because a lot of those books have
there's
opinions on women which are a little unpleasant, maybe.
I mean, you have stuff like Dune, where it's significantly better than in other older sci-fi stories, but even then, it also suffers from some of that. No, The Martian was I picked it up long after the movie was out. I hadn't watched the movie at that point yet because I had this big dream of going to space or doing something space related, and then I realized I'm not good at maths, so I kind of sacrificed that idea forever. And that's why I try to stray away from any sci-fi that was hard science fiction, because I'm like, I can enjoy my alien novella out in space, but if it gets too close to hard, I'm too heartbroken. And then I read The Martian, and I had so much fucking fun. I started reading more hard science fiction as well, and I started to think about, because The Martian, I think most people know the story. For the people who do not know, there's a crew flying to Mars. They're doing their little mission there. A couple of days before they want to leave, they already started loading their rocket with the fuel. They've already started like the procedures and everything that's needed before they leave. I think 1 or 2 days beforehand. They're outside. There's a huge storm coming. They have to make the decision: do we leave now, or do we chance our rocket falling over and never being able to leave at any point? So they say, we go out during the storm, we take the rocket, we leave, and on the way to the rocket, our main character gets lost. They think he's dead because his suit says, nah, he's dead, and so they leave Mars. He wakes up a couple days later, or I think 1 day later, and he's like, shit, I'm alive, I'm alone on Mars. And he writes, the book is his diary, basically, his mission log, and he has a lot of, I think Mark Watney, the character, is like the kind of dream a lot of scientists wish to be. He's witty, he's funny, he knows his stuff, he's creative. Obviously, he was a character chosen to be an astronaut. A lot of astronauts tend to be very smart and know their way around situations like these. But I don't know. It gave me a lot of insight and hope that even if I'm not good at maths, I can still do some space science, which I am doing now. So thanks, I guess. But I really, really enjoyed this book. It's a lot of fun. It talks a lot, not just about him being stuck on Mars, but also on the efforts on Earth. It goes through the experiment of thought of like, how would the big countries react? Is like, the first thing is, God, this will be such bad PR. We missed a guy in space. Like, we forgot him. Shit. I don't know. I just really, really liked it. And even if you're not necessarily a big sci-fi fan, I think The Martian is a good book to start to, dip your little sci-fi virgin toes into the genre and read it and enjoy it. Because you have a very likable main character as well. Very quippy, very...
Yeah, and also, even though it is hard science fiction, there isn't that much science. Like, there is science, but most of that is, like, basic chemistry or basic physics, which he applies because he has to keep himself alive. He's actually a botanist, so, like, that's his...
Yeah, like, botanist and engineer is the thing.
Yeah, but it's not... There is no, like, long explanation of how the rocket works or why we're able to do Mars travel or how anything... Like, it's mostly fun. Like, it's mostly just a guy writing a fun diary with, like, small parts where we see what's happening at NASA or, like, on Earth, or with his, like, colleagues who are all like, fuck, we forgot him!
Well, yeah, because they're not getting told until they're nearly back on Earth. because it's like a psychological decision that they make at NASA. They're like, we cannot tell them because that would fucking kill them, and they're still in an environment where they have to perform to get back to Earth. But especially the way it's written, like he says, I'm gonna do a dumb thing. We'll see whether it works out or not. And the next day, like the next diary entry is like, it didn't work and it kind of did work. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then it's just one page, and then the next one is where he actually explains what went wrong. So yeah, it's a book for you to have a good time and to feel that spirit of spacefair, you know, that like, yeah, let's fucking go, man, let's unite the world, let's do science and be great. And sometimes I do love that.
It's a very fun book. That's true.
It's a very addictive environment to be in, because all the people working in space or on space stuff are like that. They're all like, let's go. So it's it's a fun vibe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my 6. Since I have to count my books.
My number 6 is The Mortal Word by Genevieve Cogman, or a little better than The Masked City, which is from the same series. They're both from the Invisible Library series. But The Mortal Word is my favorite because it does have a murder and mystery aspect, which is just my favorite thing. I love murder mystery. I love fantasy murder. It's just...
So
it's just delightful.
Which is it in the Invisible Library? Is like the second or the third?
The Mortal Word is the 5th book, and The Masked City is the 2nd book. It has 8 books in total. But yeah, the Invisible Library series basically revolves around our protagonist, Irene, who works for the library, which is an interdimensional association, basically. And from their library, which is basically somewhere in the metaphysical space, they can travel to a bunch of different worlds, which all are somewhere aligned between chaos and order, which means they're either extremely natural or they have like fantasy story aspects to them. So that's the continuum, and a lot of the worlds we visit have like fun fantasy shenanigans going on. Like in the world they go to in the first book, there's vampires, there's werewolves, it's Victorian England. We have a Sherlock Holmes alternate version who's called Vale, who she befriends at some point, and who also ultimately travels with her to the world in the Mortal World, where they are trying to solve a murder. And like, it's so fun. There's so much fun stuff going on. It's basically, it's almost like every new book plays in a different world. So you have a bit of the Portal fantasy aspect going on, but you keep your main characters. And being a librarian is a lot less about, organizing books, and a lot more about stealing unique books from each world, so they're more like spies than, a standard librarian, which is really fun. I love Irene. She's one of my favorite characters. She's so competent and wry, and her internal monologue is very funny because she is so prone to just compartmentalizing. She'd be like, okay, that was crazy, but like, let's not think about this right now. Let's be very, very rational
we can't do this right now.
Yeah, so you'll have something like super fucked up happening, and she's like, well, that's not ideal. Let's brainstorm a solution. I love her so much.
You talk about this book series so much, and I think you never mentioned the interdimensional agency thing.
No, I have mentioned that. For sure I have mentioned this because it's such a basic part of the premise that it's like, there's no way I haven't mentioned this.
Or I forgot, because I love that shit. I gobbled that up.
Maybe, because I got too distracted talking about Silver, my favorite character. And also, like, it's not a coincidence that The Mortal Word and The Masked City are both books in which he plays an important role. An
important part.
He's in a lot of books, he's just not in them, because he isn't that important, but he's important to me. Okay,
He's
so important to me.
He was in your favorite character list.
Yeah,
where was
he's
he?
important to me. He was very high up.
I don't remember where, but I remember
I think
that he was in the list.
I mean, I can check. I think he was like in second place or something. He's very important to me.
He was high.
I guess I'm gonna check because I have it somewhere here. Where are you? Oh, okay. No, I only have it in my notebook. I didn't put it in my Notion. But I was too lazy.
He was.
But I think he was like in second place or something. He is very important to me. But yeah, no, it's delightful. The mortal word. There's like interdimensional peace talks going on, and somebody was murdered. So a lot of people are called in to try and solve that, and there's one from every faction because the Chaos faction are Fae. The Order faction are like dragons, and then we have the Librarians as like a neutral human faction, basically. So Irene and Vale accompanying her are there to, investigate on behalf of the library, who's facilitating the peace talks. Then you have a well-known dragon who is from the dragon side, who's like very competent. It's so funny because when Irene meets them, she's like, "Oh, the dragon sent someone really competent, which means Lord Silver won't be here. I was worried." And then the representative was Lord Silver, which is a delight to me because he's really not cut out for this job. But he's there because he's supposed to blackmail Irene and Vale because they know each other. He's a delight every time he's somewhere. And then you also have like interference from a powerful Fae who has nothing to do with the peace talks, but is also in the world and throws like a wrench into it. There's so much fun stuff happening in this book, which is why it's my favorite. They're all solid and really good, which is why it's one of my favorite series too. But this one is like a classic. That's my favorite.
There's lots of. I'm surprised it's at place 6, because you talk about. I don't. That smile is telling me stuff.
We've already discussed what probably will be above this.
I mean, I'm not one to talk, but.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're gonna have similar.
Do you want to talk more about the books, or do you want to move on?
No, I think there's not that much more to say.
Okay. I don't want to steal the invisible library thunder.
It's just I love these characters so much, and the mortal word just facilitates such fun interactions. Yeah, and also it's a murder It's so highly dramatic. Yeah. It's so fun. It gave me everything I wanted. Genevieve Cogman, another author who just gets me.
I have the series on my list because I see a lot of people talk about it, and it's so great. And knowing that it's a lot of books. I love that you say you see a lot of people talk about it. Is it not just me who's constantly like, yeah, you should read these? I've carefully fostered my TikTok algorithm to show me videos where people start like, let's talk about not so talked about series that are still very good because people only talk about Sarah J. Maas and dragons fucking,
Every like, here are some good fantasy series. Reckless is like the same 10 authors, just in different, orders over and over again. And it's like, girl, you don't need to recommend Sarah J. Maas or Brandon Sanderson to anyone because they're on literally every like, if somebody has just thought about fantasy, they've seen these names. Don't worry about it.
And then, that's why I've heard a lot about it, because people always mention it in those videos. And like, hey, check
those
it
people
out.
Have good taste. They're right.
Whenever people recommend a book that you've recommended to me before, I'm like, I think I should trust you.
This must be actually good then.
Until I fuck it up with like a book that I know I don't enjoy, and like a couple slides later, I'm like, why would you? I think the most crazy thing was a person going like, oh my god, Vicious is so good, and then the next one was like a book you enjoyed. I don't remember which it was, and the next slide was Light Lark. I was like, I thought you were gonna go like, one was like, oh, Vicious is so good, and the next one was The Love Hypothesis. No, next one was Light Lark, and it was like, how does this even exist on the same plane?
How are you reading these books and coming away with these opinions? Literally. How?
like, yeah. My number
Getting
5.
into the top 5.
It only took us 1.5 hours. Number 5 is a repeat offender on our channel. It's the Monster Calls. Patrick Ness.
Yeah, I get you.
It's
so fucking good.
It's so good. Watch the movie, read the book, consume the story one way or another. You will enjoy it. You will cry, sobbing on the floor, But it's just so... I love the book because of its entirety. The way it's written, the way it's structured, the way it made me cry several times. The way that even if you open it up, the format looks like a children's book because it's like not so much text. The spacing is big. So it even feels like you're reading a children's story.
I mean, I think it is middle grade. I think it is meant for young kids to read, like for kids to read.
Yeah,
I think it's aimed at kids.
I meant like even smaller child. It feels like
like a storybook, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's middle grade, or at least
yeah,
it's
I'm pretty sure it's for like the 7 to 12 demographic or whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't say.
I don't think it says the genre inside.
No, sometimes you can guess by the publisher. But it's just HarperCollins. Okay. But HarperCollins makes stuff for the teenagers. Yeah, it's just it's so good. It's so sad. It makes me cry. Yeah. It's very emotionally attached to me.
It is super good.
In the beginning, I wrote it down. It was like really low on my list. Yeah. Because like the pain, and then I said I can't put it on like a 9. And then it constantly went up. It kept going up. Until it couldn't go up anymore. Yeah. So I don't even know what else to say about it anymore. If you want to hear me talk more about it, it's in one of the Keep Burn rewrites we did.
Yeah.
I think in the first one.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just good.
I totally get it. Was on my brainstorm list, but then I was like, it's really good, but also it was too, like, it was upsetting in a way that I'm like, it's not, I wouldn't call it one of my favorites, because for my favorites, I feel like it's, from my perspective, favorites have like more of a like cozy positive association. I'm like, this is a really good book, and it's extremely good, especially if you're dealing with grief and like losing relatives or something. But like, again, I was like, I loved this book, read it, but I will never touch this again.
You'll never touch it again. Yeah, no, I actually read it again when our dog died. First time I read it was shortly after my grandma died. Second time I read it when our dog died, because I was like, no.
Yeah,
little girl. Okay, on to more positive books, because you said most of them give you a cozy feeling. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This one, like Spinning Silver, is on the like, fantasy in the more like soft magic sense, and the like folklore adjacent stuff. It's about Agnieszka, who lives in a small rural village, and every few years, the local sorcerer, whose nickname is the Dragon, comes and collects one young girl to be his assistant for a while. And after a few years, he lets her go, and usually those girls don't end up coming back to their villages, but go to the capital to live like a more fulfilling life there. So it's like, for a lot of parents, the expectation is that if your kid is chosen, you will likely never see it again. And Agnieszka expects not to be chosen. Her best friend is like, she's very beautiful and well put together, and like, ladylike. And usually the dragon likes choosing like more sophisticated girls, because he's also originally from the capital, so he's like, I don't want to hick in my house, basically.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for him, it turns out like Agnieszka has magic, like powerful magic. He's like, I have to take her, because around like all the villages, like in the northern part of the country, there are the woods, which are sentient and kind of evil. People disappear in there. There's shit in there that's like not normal and that will kill you. And it has like this corrupting influence. Like if your livestock eats stuff from the woods, they will also mutate and become strange. And like it's like a corruptive influence that spreads, like if you don't burn it immediately, basically. And he's there to keep like the woods in check, and he can't let the woods eat someone who has powerful magic, because then they'll just become more powerful and like quicker and spreading out. So he's like, I guess I got to take her in. He's not thrilled, she's not thrilled.
Nobody is thrilled.
They have this really fun dynamic going on, because like he's trying to teach her magic, but it's like he is very by the books. He has learned the rules, and you follow the rules to get the desired results. He's a recipe fan.
Yeah.
She is not. Her magic is very vibes based. She's just like, oh yeah, I tried doing that, and it kind of worked. I didn't pay attention to like measuring the ingredients. It just worked. Yeah. He is so mad about this. He's like, at some point, while they're helping like some farmer, he gets infested with something from the woods, and he's like, you have to kill me, because like none of the cleansing spells that were ever invented have worked. I have tried them all. She's like, well, that's scary, because I don't know what to do without you, so I'm gonna try anyway. So she finds this old book of spells that looks like unused. Like his library is full of these beautiful new, like, well illustrated, gilded books. This is like an old small thing kind of falling apart. There's like scribbles in there, and she just finds a recipe. Like she finds a spell for cleansing, and she just tries. She's just like, okay, we're trying this. If it works, and it does work. And he wakes up and he's just like, did you use this fucking book for this? And she's like, yeah, I did the spell. And he's like, the spell doesn't fucking work. What do you mean you used this? He is so offended that it saved his life. It's so funny. And continue. Yeah, and then later, also her friend gets caught in the woods, and she like brings her back, and then the prince in the capital hears from this and goes there and tries to, and ultimately succeeds in forcing both of them to go to the woods with him, because his mother, like the queen, at some point got caught in the woods and hasn't been seen in like a decade or whatever. He's like, no, we're gonna get my mom back, because I guess he's just a mommy's boy. And
well, I mean, it's also his mom. Like, that's a valid...
It is his mom, but also it's like, she died like 5 years ago. Like, dude, come on. At some point, you gotta make peace with things, you know? Like, a lot of people die on this attempt to get his mom, you know? I'm like, these are other people's relatives, you know? Like, come on. Not everything's about you, my man. But yeah, the story is basically them trying to fight back against the woods and like trying to figure out how to improve the situation. And it's really fun.
This whole dynamic sounds very D&D wizard versus sorcerer. So in D&D you have different kinds of ways that people can have magic, right? And the wizard is the dragon kind of dude, you know, studies for ages, is very well read in his craft, and like through very studious work he managed to have magic. And sorcerers are people who, through some thing happening in their bloodline, just have access to magic.
Yeah.
You know, so that's like a common theme in D&D of people being like, you know, the wizard being like offended by the sorcerers because they can just do shit.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I always had to think about while doing it was like, you know, the difference between those people who like, they draw meticulous guidelines. They do like a bunch of color studies before they started painting. They are planning it step by step. And then you have people who just freehand something and it looks insanely good.
Yeah,
and
like
you feel like strangling them because you could never. You're like, I have to do all that. I hate you. How do you do this?
And when you ask them, you're like, do you have any suggestions? They're like, oh, just observe nature. And it's like,
their dynamic is just so funny. Because, like, at first she's like, ooh, he's kind of scary. But then at some point she's like, oh, he's literally just cranky and he doesn't know how to talk to people.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Is it
I'm not
also
scared anymore? He's just
is it also
some guy.
the old man, young woman dynamic? Or is it different?
I mean, technically he is old, but he also doesn't look old. Because, like, magic gives you, like, a longer lifespan.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. He's just... I love him. He's such a little guy. Like, one time near the beginning, he's trying to teach her a spell for sorting things. So you know, don't have to do all that work by hand. And he, like, gives her a stack of books, and she tries it, and he's just like, what the fuck did you do? They're all out of order. And then she's like, no, they're ordered by color, and he has, like, a conniption about it. He's just like, how could you fucking do this? You know, his library is probably sorted by, like, last name, first name, and then, like, by genre or whatever.
Edition,
but she's just like, color man.
Didn't tell me how to sort it. Like
the dynamic is immaculate. It's really fun.
Oh, that sounds fun. This is the second book where it's like a... Is this also the where it's like a Slavic inspiration? Is it like a thing?
I mean, a little bit. Like, the names are obviously, you know, but otherwise it's fantasy. It's very fantasy. This is a lot more fantasy than Spinning Silver. Spinning Silver is still, like, grounded because most people still live in a standard historical setting. Yeah. Because they can't perceive the magic.
Yeah.
But Uprooted is, like, high fantasy. Like, it's full on fantasy.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4. This is How You Lose the Time War. And I'm always butchering the name by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone. What to say? It's good. It's hopelessly romantic, I would say.
It's not just good, it's amazing, okay?
Which I would sort myself into. Love letters, in the way they are written. Ridiculously brilliant.
It's so romantic. And it's also enemies to lovers. It's good.
Enemies to lovers, interdimensional spy agencies. It's blue and red. It's opposites, like, combusting and at the same time integrating. It's the nicknames.
It's like nature versus machine, you know? Like, it's so fun. It's got everything. And the writing is so good, too.
I honestly don't know how the authors didn't fall in love while writing this. Because, I mean, if you write I don't know how they did it, you know, the co-writing.
I mean, I don't know either, but, like, I think people can differentiate who a letter is for. And also,
I know.
Just from my own experience, writing fiction is, like, it's hard work, so I feel like you're probably more stressed than, like, romantically inclined while laboring over your manuscript.
But I think if I read one of those love letters for the first time, I'd be like, you know, I imagine it's late in the day. I'm reading it. I'd be like writing back, what are we? You know. It's really good. It's really, really good.
It is.
And I just love it.
It is so good.
It's I mean, we already said, like, it's people falling in love in an endless war that will always continue, of the most opposites to opposite. It has time travel in it. If it's a bit weird, in quotation marks, if you can deal with intergalactic stuff and
I mean, it's mostly poetic, is what
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
If you were allergic to metaphor and, like,
Allegories.
the
Then...
like, yeah, maybe don't read this, but also you are weak.
And if this this was the one reel I think I sent you, somebody asking,
dude, this gave me psychic damage, man. Dude.
This book does not have spice, okay? It doesn't need spice. It supersedes the realm in which spice is needed. It
like, levitates. If you need to have on-page sex to understand that people are in love, insane. Your reading comprehension is not good, is what I would say.
Like, they consume each other, quite literally, in this book. What more do you want? Like,
literally, what is more romantic than fighting against the rest of the world just to get your happy ending together? Like,
then traveling through time, going back to all the places in which you discarded morsels of a letter just to consume it and eat it, to get anything from your partner whom you love, to save them. I love it. We have to stop now because it's not...
It's so good, man. No, I agree. I absolutely agree.
It's one of those books that makes me gnaw at the bars of my enclosure, you know?
It is so good.
It's ridiculously good. It's why I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the rest of the books I have over here, which I'm sure you know what they are. And I'm gonna say that the next books, my top 3, are more emotional and that kind of stuff. That's why they're on top 3. But I'd say, and no blame to the coming authors, but I would say that this one is the most elevated on my list in terms of...
You would say from a writing standpoint, it's the most fun,
because it's also not long, so the words have to kind of really...
Yeah, it is so effective. It's so good.
I feel like if you have like a 400-page book, not every sentence has to be tailored.
Yeah, I am so glad this like went viral when Trigun came out and people like like associated it because it deserves it so much. Like I'm so glad like more people read it and it got really popular because it's just so good.
And the thing is, I thought this was the... What do you call this effect when you hear something for the first time and then suddenly you hear people talk about it everywhere? There's a name it has. I thought that effect was happening to me after I read it, and then I saw
it was a coincidence.
Literally, more people are talking about it right now.
Yeah, I read it a while before that, but then I was like, why is everyone talking about it?
It's honestly,
and then I saw the tweet that spawned it all, and I was like, "Oh, okay. I'm glad. I'm happy for them. They deserved that the book does so well because it's so good.
It is.
But yeah, my number 4 is a tie between 2 books from the same series.
Okay, I see.
A Deadly Education and The Golden Enclaves, which is both by Naomi Novik.
Does this count as 4 Naomi Novik books now?
I mean, you can count it as 4 if you want to. They're the first and the third book in the series. The Scholomance series. I think I've told you about it before, but the basic setup is that there are people who can do magic in the world, and magic depends on language and intent. So you speak words that channel your intent, and then magic does the rest of the work. And because magic is all about intent, the magic itself, where it concentrates, it also has like its own like personality and intent. So any place that collects magic, and of course we have like people who can do like if you basically steal magic from stuff around you, because like you can steal energy from other people or from living organisms, because magic also runs on effort, so you have to, you know, give as much work as the magic is supposed to perform. But you can also cheat by stealing it, and the stealing creates an imbalance in the world, obviously, and this imbalance leads to basically evil magical creatures that want to eat wizards. And these monsters are everywhere, and they're mostly prey on like wizard children because they can't defend themselves yet, like adults, so they're easy prey. And that's why they built the Scholomance, which is a magical school which is basically removed from the world. It exists in the void. They build it with magic inside the void, and it's only connected to the outside world through a small like door at one entry point, basically. So they can try to limit how much evil shit gets in there. And the survival rate inside the Scholomance is like a third of kids make it. But outside, 90% of kids die. So like you do want to get in there, but even if you get in there, you're probably dying either way.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it's like if you're a wizard kid, you're fucked.
Why is the death rate so high inside the school? Because
even though the connection to the outside world is small, the evil shit still gets in. It's just less than would get in normally, but you have to consider that the school is a huge concentration of magical energy and young young wizard children.
Yeah.
So obviously it's like a buffet. You're like, oh, if I do get in, I'm set. So like inside the school, you have to check your room, you have to check under your bed, you have to check the vents. You have to be careful sometimes, you know, in the buffet at like breakfast or dinner or whatever. You have to make really sure that your food's like normal and that nothing got into it and stuff. It is stressful.
How bad is the security at that school?
Well, again, the security is still better than if you were outside.
Yeah.
But it still sucks because the security is purely magic. There are no adults in there. The school is like a very highly complicated magical machinery that was like created by a lot of people because it costs a lot to send children in there because they don't go in through the front door where all the, you know, evil shit collects, but they're sent in via spell, and to send something into the void is really expensive. So you want to send in as little as possible, which includes food and everything. So unfortunately there are no teachers. The school is taking care of, like, the learning materials and all of that, and it sets the schedule. No one really knows how it works, but again, like, it's a complicated magical machinery, and because magic runs off of intent, the school has opinions on stuff and can make decisions, but nobody knows how it works, because it's like a black box. You're like, why is my schedule this fucked? And, like, you know, it's super it's so fun. I love the world building. Like, for example, because so many kids die, their dormitory rooms, like, everyone has their own room. If somebody dies, their room, like, basically gets absorbed into another person's room. So if you're lucky, your room gets, like, wider or something. But our main character is super unlucky, so her room just got higher. So she got, like, a second room on top of hers, which just makes the ceiling farther away and super dark, so anything could be up there, and she can't check. And it's like, and
give the girl some stairs, like...
Yeah. It's unfortunate, man.
Imagine.
Again, being in the school sucks ass, but being outside is literally worse.
It would be super funny if her room went, like, up and then to the side and then up again, and it's like this worm throughout the whole building.
Honestly, that would be really, really funny. But yeah, so our main character is named Galadriel Higgins. Her mom was a big Lord of the Rings fan. And unfortunately, you know, sometimes children have like are born with a lot of power or like with a prophecy about of something, and she's unfortunately super powerful, but her affinity is for like evil shit, like wide scale destruction, all of that. Like all those spells come really easily to her, but something like mending her clothes is like super hard. She can't do it because like her like what she's meant to do, like her magical inner, like it predisposes her towards evil shit, and her mom on the other side is like a magical hippie. She's like very into like balance and doing good and, you know, helping people and giving out so that the world will give you positive things back, which is, and it's such an opposite of Elle, because Elle always, like, the world is negatively predisposed to her, like, as if they can all perceive that she's meant to be, like an evil wizard who has, like, a huge tower and, like, an acid moat and, like, minions and shit. And so, like, her mom keeps getting, like, good things back out of the world, and you know, if you're a kid and you stand next to everyone's giving you the stink eye, you probably not feel great about that.
Yeah. She's like the Antichrist.
She's a loner, and it's like her second to last year in the first book, and she's, you know, struggling because she doesn't really have friends, because all the wizards also feel like she's a fucking weirdo, and like so she's having a hard time.
Aww.
And she's, you know, she's trying to, you know, not be a terrible person. Yeah. But it's hard because it's easy for her to be a bad person. Yeah. And she has to work harder than other people, because other people, again, they can cheat, they can draw like mana from everything around them. Yeah. But she can't do that because for her, because of her predisposition, it would be too easy to kill people with it and steal all their shit. And she knows she couldn't start because she wouldn't be able to stop if she started. Yeah. So she has to work up all the energy herself by doing like working out and doing tasks she hates and stuff. So she is hardcore struggling. Yeah, I love her. She's amazing. She was also in my favorite characters list. She's like my Skrunkly. And her counterpart in her year is Orion Lake. He's from an enclave, which are like, they're also like the school places that were basically put into the void with only small connections to the outside world, so they're much safer. But it's very hard to get a place there because you have to offer something to the people who already live there, because they're limited in space and stuff. So they're always like, well, you have to pay a lot to get in there or have like something special to offer. So he's like from the nice side of town, you know. He's from the, but he's also a weirdo. But also, he can generate mana from killing, like, the evil creature stuff, which nobody else can. And he's running around saving people at school. Yeah. He's, like, doing the you know, standard hero stuff. And at some point near the beginning of the book, he saves her and she's super mad about it. Because she's like, I could have saved myself and I hate owing people stuff. Yeah. And then they have like this, their relationship is so fun, especially at the beginning, because he's just like, I'm just trying to help, and she's so mad about it. It's like golden retriever and angry cat energy. It's delightful. I love him. I also love that his description is not like, oh, he was the hottest guy ever. It's like, no, he has like a hooked nose and his hair is kind of greasy because like self-care is not the most important thing to him. He's just kind of like a bit of a weirdo. He doesn't really talk to anyone. He doesn't really have friends. He has other kids who come also from New York like him and who he protects and stuff, but like he doesn't really have friends. He's a fucking weirdo. But you know, they end up like becoming friends. It's so fun. The confused dog, angry cat energy is so good. I love them.
It's true. It's the golden retriever.
It's a classic. Cat stuff. And also it's like the whole like hero villain dynamic, because obviously he's like lucky to have the ability to like draw power from killing stuff, while for everyone else it's like extra work. Like if you have to defend yourself, it costs you magic, but you don't get anything back. The only thing you get is not getting killed. Which is good, but also you need the magic for the end of the year or for the end of your tenure at the school, because if you want to leave, you have to go through the front door where all the shit's collected. So graduation is the time when like most people from a year die, where like the death toll is highest. Because like obviously over the year also a bunch of people die, but especially for the later years, they're used to this. It's mostly freshmen who die, but then, you know, at the end it's like, yeah, the graduation hall is filled, like it's just teeming with monsters, and you have to get through that to get out.
That's unnecessarily mean, but I get why.
Again, it's like, it's still the best shot anyone's getting.
Yeah.
But it's not good, though. It's not nice. It's not a good time.
I wonder if the kids could just go crazy, or if the house is like able to, like Lord of the Flies situation.
The kids are not normal, dude. Because like they're inside the void. There are no windows. You do not see daylight in the 3 or 4 years you're in there. You only have like limited stuff. Even like showering can be dangerous because sometimes something's lurking in your shower head to jump out at you. And like it's not great. And also because only a limited amount of people will make it out, and mostly the people who come from enclaves and have like stuff collected over generations, and they have like more mana because again they can offer enclave spots to other kids who then do the dirty work for them. So it's mostly the enclave kids who make it out, and it does kind of suck, and it incentivizes a very, you know, looking out for yourself and literally nobody else energy, and so which is also why everyone's like, Orion's really weird, because no one else would ever save people. Just like that, but he's like, no, I need to save people.
He sounds like a really good guy.
Him. Aww. But yeah, the first and the third book are tied on for a fourth place. Because they're like the best it's ones. Very difficult because like the first one is great because you get an introduction and stuff, and the third one is also great because it's such it's so good when stuff was set up in the very first book and then you have the payoff. It's so well constructed. It's such a satisfying conclusion. That's like, oh.
Such a good moment.
I love these books. Naomi Novik gets me, man. She knows what I like.
Does she publish on like quite a regular schedule?
I would say yeah. I mean, the Skullman series came out over the last like 4 or 5 years. Like it's pretty consistent.
So you get your fix.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, I'm always a little apprehensive because I'm like, I don't know if I'll like it. Like, I didn't read the Skullman's books right when they came out because I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm not that into magical schools. But then I saw a really good review of it and I was like, oh man, I can try. Yeah. I saw it at the library. Like, I wouldn't have bought it, but I saw it at the library. So I was like, well, it's free, so I might as well take a look. And then I was like, oh, I'm in love. Okay. I'm going to be obsessed with this for a while now. Cool.
Like the realization's like, oh, that's got to be the next hyperfixation for like...
Yeah, I am
a couple of months.
That's why they're on this list, man. I'm unwell about them, you know?
Just gonna mark this because I really like this for the blurb. Okay. Want to go into the top 3? Just to mentally prepare you. They're all from the same book series, obviously, for me.
I know. That's why you asked. I was like, yeah, I know what this is gonna be.
For you, dear listeners, I asked how you want to handle, like, is it allowed to have several books of one book series in the
on thing. Different places, yeah.
Yeah, in the list. And Ren was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I was like, you can do 2, you can do 3, you can do 10 books all from the same series. If this is the truth, speak your truth.
I could have done that. I picked 3. And place number 3 is from the series called The Edge Chronicles by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddle. And it's the 3rd book of the series. It's the 3rd book of the first protagonist that we're introduced to. It's called The Edge Chronicles Midnight over Sancta Frax. What is this series about? It's a fantasy series, and it's not the typical dwarf, elves, whatever fantasy. The main idea is that you have a lot of goblins of all different kinds. Some of them have a head like a hammerhead shark. Some of them look like a big potato. You know, they're all very different looking depending on where they are situated in the world. And mixing between is kind of like, it's not seen very nicely from these different tribes. So the people who are mixed goblins at some point moved to another place called the Fourthlings, and those are kind of I'd say the human stand-in. They look like what you would expect humans to look like. You can guess what kind of goblin species they have, because again, there's an impact on it, but those are the ones who live on the edge of the cliff of this edge world that they live on. And there's a lot of like political stuff going on with the scientists, and you have the people who live in the pretty science city that's literally floating above the poor people's city. And then you have a huge swamp dividing, the sophisticated Fourthlings from the ravages in the deep woods, all the other goblins. And you don't know where the deep woods end. You don't know where the cliff ends. It's all the opening of this world is very, this is full of secrets and little things you can find. The 3rd book, which I choose, I like so much because it's, I feel, the first one where they say, oh yeah, we've got this map, we've got this world, and we want to really, full throttle, go at it and see what we can do. The first book is, so these are middle grade, these books. The first book is very, they all have they're like fables, they all have a overarching story of, you're alright the way you are, you're a good kid, no matter how weird you are, you're loved, you're perfect. And the first book is very much about that. The second book is about finding family and, trying to find your place in the world. And the 3rd book is like, hell yeah, now we're gonna do the crazy stuff. And now we've got all of that other shit out of the way. Let's get going at it. And it has one of my favorite characters in here. I don't even remember if I mentioned Cal Quapple in the favorite character list. I think I didn't, because I chose somebody else from the same series. Yeah. He's one of my favorite characters. He's a scientist. He's exactly how you would imagine the timid scientist to go. He's very book driven, you could say, and he gets matched up with the main character, who's this fucking sky pirate. He's so cool, and he says, you're smart, we're gonna go do some cool shit. And then the two of them run off together and have their fun adventure. The main problem is every couple of centuries there's a huge storm coming from somewhere across the edge. They don't know where it forms, what it does, when it comes. But what they do know is that it completely annihilates everything living on the edge to start sort of a new cycle of civilization, basically. And they say that would kind of suck. So they try to take the storm out of the equation in just a very fun adventure that takes you across the whole length of the map and back to the front in one book. It's really fun. I really love it. And it has just a very satisfying ending in itself. So that's why this one got place 3. Opposed to the other ones. But I really love it. I really, really do. I love Kaulquapple. I love Twig. Twig is the name of the main character, by the way.
Yeah. You're just like standing in the woods. I love Twig. I love Twig. I love Twig.
That's the names are very cute and very middle grade fantasy vibe, I would say. A lot of them are very literal. He's called Twig because he's built like a twig. Because as a baby, he gets dropped off by his real biological parents somewhere in the forest on a path of wood trolls. Parents are like, this is a wood troll path. They walk these a lot of times a day. They will find this baby. And the wood trolls are a little more rotund. And Twig is, he's very straight. He's human shaped,
so it's like, oh.
He's shaped like a twig. And also his mom, like they go to the, what are they called in English? The dream willow trees or something. They go up to them and like try to find out the name of their child, and there she also gets to the child because she has a twig in her hand. So it's like there's a lot of meanings to it. He's built like a twig. His mom got the idea because of the twig. In the end, he grows up to be like a fucking tree, like metaphorically wise, but he's still just a twig. It's just very cute. Yeah. I love him. He's so sweet. Yeah. Also, for the people getting interested now in the Edge Chronicles, it has pictures. Okay.
Yeah, it has beautiful Chris Riddle illustrations. Really
good. The map, which the whole story is based on, was drawn by Chris Riddle after Paul Stewart said, draw me a map that I can write a story to. And then Chris Riddle whipped out that map, gave it to Paul Stewart and says, here, you go. Write me a story. And that's why they both are also listed as authors, because it's like they're both really entrenched in the story. Okay, that's
number 3. Give it up for number 3. Yeah, my number 3 is The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik, which is the second book in the Skullomance series, which I do like a little bit more than the first and the third.
I was like, what's the issue with the second one? Why is
there
this
is
one
no
and 3?
Issue.
Aha!
It's slightly above the other one. I love all of them so much, but I was like, I can't do like 3 slots for Skullomance. That's too much. We're gonna downsize by making one of them to it. But
what specifically about the second book do you like that it like makes it more?
Because the first one is like an introduction and you learn about the world and stuff, and like obviously the characters. But the second book is, I feel like, where most of the character relationships get really solidified, because now they're like. First book, they're in their second to last year, but in the second book, they're in their last year, and they're working towards their own graduation. And there's a lot of stuff happening at school. There's like ramifications for stuff they did in the first book at the end and stuff. But you also have, especially Elle building out, because she has made 2 friends in the first book who she's allying with for graduation, and they're working towards like their plans on how to survive and like building all of that up. And there's a lot of them building a relationship together. One of them is somebody who can work with like animals and familiars, so all of them get a little rat familiar, and it's so cute. But there's also just a lot of the characters get developed, like that we met in the first book and that weren't like super important. Like we have people who are from the New York Enclave, like Orion, which we didn't have that much to do with. Like there's a lot of depth to a number of things that I really like. And I mean, I do love the school setting, but it's also like, this is like stuff in the school is going wrong, which is also like, I mean, it's called The Last Graduate. You can imagine what's going on. But like it's really fun. There's just so much character stuff that I really love. And I do like the last one as well, but obviously like with like a big climax and stuff, that's just like not as interesting on like a character level. Because like, if your story is well structured, then you can kind of like the climax is like inevitable. You have a good idea of what it's going to be, and there are a lot of revelations, and that's like cool. But the build up in like the second book, it's just the most fun to me. It's just.
Does the series have a murder mystery?
No.
There's too much murder, I guess, going around.
I mean, there...
Or too much death.
At the beginning, there's like, oh wow, someone was killed. It was probably like an evil wizard who's like draining people on purpose and stuff. But like, right at the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, I know exactly who it is, but people think it's me because I have the evil aura, you know? And she's like, I didn't even do it, and people think it was me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are other, like, you know, aspects to it where you're like, oh, this is kind of like a fun mystery setup, and like all of them get resolved super satisfactorily at the very end. But also, like, in the second book, Al gets assigned from the school. There's like a study period she has in like a room, and she has it with a bunch of first years. And it's just so cute because it's like, at first she's like, I am not protecting children. I am not Orion Lake. I am not playing hero. But ultimately, it's still like, that's her gaggle of little guys, you know?
Yeah.
It's so cute. I love that.
It's really
like,
sweet.
her development is so... I love that for her.
No, that's really sweet.
Yeah, no. Also, it ends on like I love the ending because Naomi Novik really commits to being like, and everything almost worked out, but something went really wrong.
Do you get to know, like, this is the way it goes wrong? Not this is why, but this is the way it goes wrong? Or is it like, it goes wrong, but I'm gonna tell you in the next book? Like,
no, it's like, oh, we almost made it out of this bad situation. But we didn't make it out unscathed, and the thing that went wrong is pretty upsetting to everyone involved, especially to Elle.
And that's where it cuts, and then
it cuts off at like the point where you're like, oh no.
That must have been one hell of a cliffhanger when the books came out.
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm so glad I bought the second and third one at the same time, and I had the third one immediately. But, like, yeah, I was also upsetty spaghetti. I was like, no!
Was it the one series where you were like, nah, I know this is a trilogy, and I'm not gonna buy the second book before the third one comes out? Because sometimes you do that.
I do that a lot of times, because it's just... Because I'm somebody who likes reading things close together. And if I don't read them close together, that means I have to reread the other stuff every time before, like, if I liked it. Like, that's why I've read The Cruel Prince, like, 4 times. Because I read it when it came out. I read it when Wicked King came out. I read it and Wicked King when Queen of Nothing came out. And then I read it again for our book club. You know, I have read The Cruel Prince many times. I just don't like waiting forever. So I do that for a lot of things. But I think when I read the first one, the other ones were already out because I was putting it off. Because I was like, I really loved Naomi Novik's fantasy stuff. Like, I loved Uprooted, and then Spinning Silver came out, and I loved those. But they're both standalone, so when it was like, oh, she's writing a series about a magical school, I was like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
And then I found it at the library, like, years after it came out originally, and I was like, well, I guess this is my brain now for it forever.
No, right. You said you read them at the library. Of course, that takes some time.
Yeah, no, there are other book series where I have done that on purpose. There are a number of series where I only own the first book so far because I'm like, I'm not reading this, or I'm waiting until all of the rest is done, so I don't have to also reread the second book before the third one comes out. Yeah.
Because it makes so much sense, but the first time you told me, I was like, that's some funky behavior.
No, because there's so much other stuff to read, right? Because there's so many other, like, standalones or series that are out completely where I'm like, well, I'm not, you know, I can also wait till the rest is out. I'm not in a hurry.
No. I understand.
Yeah. Because I also hate waiting, because, like, if I had experienced that cliffhanger and then I had to wait, like, 1.5 years, I would have gone insane. I would have, like, I don't know what I would have done, man. I would have been like, no, what? No.
Yeah, that's how I felt after, what's it called? Swordbreaker?
Yeah.
I was like, is this a fucking joke?
You're like, am I a joke to you?
Yeah, because it was the same situation. It's like, you don't know who's dead. You don't know where people are. You know, one side character has survived.
Yeah.
That's the only information you have.
Yeah, no, here, you know exactly what has gone wrong, and you're like, no.
And it's like, kudos to the authors who do that.
Yeah, no, I love that Naomi Novik commits to the bed. She's like, no.
But it's a hate-love relationship that you get, because you're like, the fuck do you mean?
Yeah, it's really good, and that's why it's very good to have all the books and binge read. I need to get my hands on the first book so I can read the whole trilogy again. Like, I'm just like this. I want to read the first one again to see all the setup that I forgot about that like was foreshadowed right at the beginning. So I'm like, yeah.
I'll never forget when I found out that the Green Rider series by Kristen Britton, in fact, is not a trilogy, but is like 12 books long, because at some point they didn't translate them to German anymore.
But I had like there was this like book series that has like there was like a fairy thing where it was like two worlds and the main character could travel between them. And there were like 4 books, but the first 3 were like an obvious trilogy, and then the 4th book set up a new like problem.
Oh.
But at the time nothing else was out and nothing else was translated, so I was just like, how is this the last book? You can't do this to me.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I was like, what? No, what?
Weird.
This is worse. Why is this worse than the last book? Yeah, no.
And did they come out with more books, or did they just stop?
I don't know. I have not checked. I gave up after that and read other stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a valid thing to say. It's just my curiosity is like.
Yeah, no, like, I'm sure there was more. I mean, if they did well enough to be translated to German, then they at least would have come out in English. So.
That's also how my sister felt with the model instruments, because she bought the first 3 one, and I mean, then Cassandra Clare went off to write Clockwork Angel, and then she came back and wrote like 4, 5, and 6, right? And at that point, my sister had outgrown the YA books, and I'm in school, and like somebody comes up with these books, and I'm like, oh shit, you're reading really old stuff. That's super cool. Like, the series is fun. They're like, what do you mean? The author just published new things. I'm just trying to catch up with the series. And then I told my sister, and she's like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
There's more. Now I have to read more.
I don't think she read the rest of them. I bought the rest of them. And then she graciously gifted them to me, so now I have the full series in my shelf.
I remember reading the 4th one and being like, God, I wish I had stopped after the 3rd one. I mean, like, now I have to check how it ends, but I'm not happy about it.
Valid.
Because, like, the 3rd one ends, like, fine, and then the 4th one is like, yay, new problems for no good reason. I was like, oh, dude, why are we doing this? I don't like this.
It's like season 6 of Supernatural. We should have stopped at 5.
Yeah, no, post season 5, where it's like, you already had the literal apocalypse with the devil. What do you mean? You're still going, what? What do you mean?
Well, to not get sidetracked more, because I think I kind of, I asked stupid questions, and then we kind of got we got lost.
Drum roll, 2nd place.
It's also from the Edge Chronicles. This is chronologically the 5th book. It's the first book of the Rook series, and because again only have it in German, the English title is The Last of the Sky Pirates. In German it's called Rook und Twig, that's Himmelspirat. The way that they wrote these books, they wrote the first 3 books, then they said, oopsie, something happens at the end of the 3rd book that kind of makes it impossible to go back to a certain place. So they go back in time for the 4th book, and they write again about that place that still exists at that time. And then they say, but now we kind of want to go back to the future and write about what happens after the first 3 books. So there's a little
they're
kerfuffle
prequeling and sequeling as much as they like.
all over the place.
Yeah.
So they write about this new age of flight that happens. In the first 3 books, the Age of the Sky Pirates, they have these air ships, these sky ships that are being powered by stones that can float. And if you make the stone cold, it goes up. If you heat it up, it goes down. The stones cannot fly anymore at the end of the 3rd book due to a stone sickness, which is why they have to figure out other ways to fly, which is the second age of flight. There are several in this book series, in which they use wood that naturally has buoyancy and flies up, and then they like carve them into little figurines, and they're like have their gliders, and it's very cool. And the 5th book is about the scientists that were driven into the sewers to hide from the anti-scientist groups, and they go on this big journey through the tunnels, through a very scary wood that is between the swamp and the deep woods. It's called the Twilight Woods. They have to go through the deep woods, and then somewhere in the deep woods you have this new science glades enclave where they get to be have their education as Knights of the Library, and then they go out into the world, they write a thesis about a certain topic, they come back, they add to the library, which is a concept I just love. And it's the main character, Rook. Again, he's a small little guy. He's not the person who thinks that they're gonna be the main character, but he gets chosen by the very old head of the library. He's like, you're gonna go, which means he's completely unprepared. He's like, I didn't expect this to happen. And he's just a fundamentally good person. Like, he's just very naive and very happy and very like, oh guys, it's all gonna be okay. And he keeps that spirit up throughout at least the 1st book. In the 2nd book, he has some, which would be the 6th book overall, he has some serious like crisis of faith going on. Poor little dude. And this book has, who was then like top 2 in the character video, who has one of my favorite characters, who's Sam Philitine, who has enemies to friends to enemies to allies to kind of, you know, he's not being allowed, like they don't like him, but he is there to friends again, like over 3 books. That's his arc. And this book has the enemies to friends to enemies arc. Ooh. Which it's not really enemies, because in the end he doesn't shoot his friend. He's like, I'm gonna let you escape because at some point we were friends, but you know, which I eat up. And this again is similar to the 3rd place. It's just a book where they decided to have a lot of new ideas and just really expand on the world, which I just really enjoy. And it has a little cameo of Twig at the end.
Aww.
And Cal Quapple, which I also like. So, that's the 2nd place.
You're the guy they make cameos for here. Like, yes, jingle the keys in front of my eyes, please.
Give it to me. No, that's the fun thing about the Edge Chronicles. The stories and ages overlap, so there's interactions, even with like super insignificant characters, but it's super fun to keep track of the last names of people, because Cal Quapple comes from a family that's full of dicks and assholes, but he's the first guy in that family, at least in the book that we know of, who's a nice person. And that's the keeping track of the family trees.
When I read them, it was like, wait, we met this guy as an old guy, but now in the prequels, hey, he's a young guy. Oh, I know this. Yeah, I remember this guy.
So that's really fun. It's not just a cameo. Of course, it's a cameo. But it's not just that. It's all
there are good reasons for it.
Yeah, it's all very intertwined. So that's also, if that's the, what did you say? The little thing to dangle in front.
Yeah, no, that's a little feather.
It's like
I mean, I am
like,
a hater of stuff like
the,
that. I think fan service is like,
it's the Markiplier
it
video.
feels
Like, I
condescending.
said your favorite word.
Yeah,
I said your favorite
like,
word.
I understand. Apparently, I am in the minority, and a lot of people really like that. But I'm always like, dude, I'm an adult. I know what you're doing. I'm not stupid. You know.
Well, I can acknowledge and still enjoy, but
Yeah,
I know
fair.
I get why I get why you wouldn't like it. In the Star Wars Episode 7, I was like, oh, I'm as happy as Harrison Ford is that Han Solo died.
Yeah.
We're both very happy.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just like, do we really need to weigh everything new down by cramming all the old stuff and references in it? Like, can't it be its own thing? Is it not allowed to breathe? Yeah.
And I felt like with Leia, it was fine. She sent them off on the mission. She has like a secondary guiding role. But with Han Solo, it was like, we don't need this dude to run around here. We have our own young dudes.
Yeah.
And gals. And everything in between who can run around and make their new story. But that's just...
Yeah.
Your second place, please.
My second place is Vicious by V.E. Schwab.
I forgot to say that didn't make my list.
Damn.
No, please. It's so good. It's so
Vicious
so fucking good.
I love Vicious. I love Victor Vale so much. I think he was number 1 in my characters list. I love Victor Vale so much. He's so
such a good dude.
He's such a character of all time to me. I love him. He was into blackout poetry before it was cool, you know? He's like...
I love my edition. The one I have has like the blacked out poetry on the front of the book. And it was so much fun finding out why it's
he's... I love him so much. I love Vicious so much. It's such a good book. I simply, again, live in a state of delusion. Vengeful does not exist to me. I don't care if there are more books in this series. I think it's insane because Vicious is such a well-constructed standalone that is so obviously thematically done by the end that it feels offensive to try to follow it up with something. And given that Vengeful has, like, middling to bad reception with people, I'm like, yeah, no wonder. Like, there's no way it could be good or successful. Like, let Victor enjoy his retirement where he raises, like, a family can be you, a guy you picked up in prison, a girl you found on the side of the road, and the undead dog she keeps around. And also... the guy with chronic pain you found at a bar, like that can just be your
run
life.
Fast guy.
You don't need to then like it's insane to me that it's like, oh no, we need another book where Eli and Victor interact. It's like, no, like Victor is done. That's the thing. Like he got his satisfaction because everyone thinks he's dead, so they're leaving him alone. And everyone knows Eli is an evil piece of shit, and he is rotting in prison where he belongs. Like, why would... Like, I understand the character dynamic is compelling, but it's also a disservice to the character dynamic to pick it back up, because the ending is so well done. I'm like, what more do you want? Like, everything is here.
I haven't read Vengeful. Is it from Eli's perspective?
I don't know. There's I think Vengeful is like a sequel. There's like more people with cool powers in it. Like it's doing just more news. I don't really know what's happening in it, but I don't care. In my mind, it does not exist. I don't respect it. I'm not. It's simply not real to me. I hate sequels to things that obviously did not need them. Like
we talked about Vicious quite a bit, but to the people who don't know.
Yeah, Vicious is somewhat of a superhero adjacent genre, I would say. People with unusual powers exist, but most of the world doesn't believe in them because there's not that many. But our main characters, Victor and Eli, do believe in it, and they're trying to figure out how to make people with powers, or how to give themselves powers. And the book is cut between the past, where they're at college and trying to figure this out, and the now, 10 years later, where Victor escaped jail and is on the hunt for Eli. And it is not quite clear at the beginning why, but we understand that both of them hate each other now and want to kill each other.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at, yeah. And both of them have obviously, like, supernatural powers, and there are more characters who also have, like, fun superpowers that we meet, and that's, you know, that's the story. We slowly figure out what happened, and then we see how their confrontation ends.
I think what I especially liked about Vicious, and I know you hate him, but I loved Eli as a character.
No,
in the
Eli
way
is a
that
great character. He's such a hateable villain. He's so hateable.
Just,
I'm like, I hate this hypocritical piece of shit. I'm like, yeah.
There's so many layers about him, which just all together makes so much sense to be a hateable person.
It's great. And the greatest thing about it is that you could run him over with a car for infinity. He wouldn't die. He would keep regenerating. Isn't that great? I think that's amazing.
That's what Victor dreams about. Like in a stream, he's just like...
Victor's like, in my mind, they're performing unethical experiments on him in prison. Inshallah. I believe it.
But yeah, no. I highly, strongly considered putting it on my list. But then I was like... But I agree, it's
so good.
Phenomenal pick.
It's amazing. It's such.
I remember I didn't you gushing about this book for years,
and then you saw it.
I didn't want it. I didn't want it to order it. Sometimes I want to hunt a book, and hunting an English book in Germany, it's hard. And then I found it in a bookstore in Cologne, and I read it on the flight to the US, and I was just constantly thinking, dang, thanks, Ren.
Yeah.
This is so good.
Like, damn, Ren, once again, correct.
Correct. Honestly, you have never deceived me so far in your taste of books.
Cause I'm a whiny bitch, so like my like when I do recommend a book, it's probably really good. If I got past my annoying, pretentious asshole personality, it's like, this is probably at least somewhat serviceable.
But yeah, Vicious is really good.
Vicious is so
good. I have to say, I majorly enjoyed the college POVs. Cause
really interesting.
Yeah, because I like this. I like the sunny boy Eli that everybody loves in this pretentious
you fell for the ruse.
No, in this pretentious frat boy energy. You know what I mean? And it's like Victor is sitting there and he's like, no, this guy has some evil about him. Only I can see it. And I loved the college kind of setting.
Yeah.
I really liked that. Because that's when they do the experiments, trying to figure out. That's also something I really enjoyed. And it's the part where they're still friends. Or whatever.
Because I find the adult parts way more compelling. I mean, they're also adults in college, but like I love the jaded Victor Vale who came out of jail, and it's like, I am here to fuck shit up, but also, oops, I'm a parent now. Well, okay.
I love that trope. I do love that trope. I just love the other POV a bit more. But I can totally get why you would. The kid, she's also so cute.
The kid's so cute. And like,
I just
love
here.
Mick too. Mick is so good too. He's the normalest man in the whole thing.
He's like, what have I got myself into?
Which is a really funny thing to say about a guy who like, was in prison for years and then befriended Victor Vale and got out like because they were friends. But it's like, he's so normal compared to everyone else. His POV, like, you see him in the story and you're like, wow, he's literally just some guy.
The way he's perceiving
well-adjusted man. Oh my god.
It's like a fucking circus, and unfortunately, these are my monkeys.
Yeah, he's like, God, I mean, this monkey got me out of prison, but I wish it would stop monkeying so much right now.
Can you chill for like a second? And the child is like worse, you know?
Yeah. But the child is learning monkey behaviors that I don't think are appropriate for children.
It's like these instructions, how to hold a baby, how to not hold a baby, you know? It's like we know who's on which side of the...
It's so good.
No, I agree. It's good. It's a solid second place pick.
Yeah.
Very intrigued what the first one will be now.
I don't think you'll be surprised.
I thought you were gonna say Vicious is the first one. That's why.
Interesting.
But probably because I forgot about this. About the other option. Well, let's continue with my very diverse pick. It's again The Edge Chronicles. Listen, for somebody who just joined this video and is still listening, I had an unhealthy obsession with this book series when I was like 11 to 13 or something, because at the children's library I went to, at certain ages you were allowed to go into other rooms that were more appropriate, and at 11 you get to go to the second room, and the second room had this series. And I did exclusively read this series for 2 years of
That's
my
amazing.
life.
Honestly, I support you.
Because I just obsessed over it so fucking much. That's why these books have just such a special place in my heart. This is called The Edge Chronicles: Clash of the Sky Galleons. It's the last book of the Quint trilogy. And now if you remember when I said, oh, they wrote the first 3, then I wrote one in the past, and then they wrote one in the future. They wrote 3 in the future, and then they said, oh, well, now both of our protagonists have 3 books except for one. What are we gonna do? Gonna write 2 more ones so that each of them has 3 books. So that's what they do. They write 2 more about Quint, who chronologically is at the front of all of the other stories. He's the OG. Because of some skedaddling he involves himself in, the whole series happens. It's unfortunate. And this is the last book, and his father is a sky pirate, he's a sky pirate, they're sky pirating around. And back when he was a child, his name is Quintinius because he was the 5th child of, I think, 7 or 8 children. And his mother and his brothers all died in a house fire, because his father wasn't always the sky pirates aren't like the illegal pirates kind of thing. They're more like an alternative to the bigger corporations, basically, that do trade all over the map. And his father was very good at what he was doing. And there was a guy who was like associated with the big companies who didn't like that fact, and he set fire to their villa and like kind of barricaded the doors. And Quint only didn't die because he was somewhere out on like a little day trip with his father. And in this book, like at the end of the 8th book, which is the book that before this one, his father comes up and he's like, hey, I know you're like studying to become a super cool knight, but I found the guy who killed our family. Want to do some revenge? And that's what they do in this book. They try to do some revenging, and it's a really interesting, cool story about the way that like this revenge and this grief can completely fuck you up and carry over generations, how it fucks up relationships between different people, how it can be utilized by others to fuck you up even more. It has some of my favorite plots. It has some of my favorite artworks, this book. It was just a really fun story because you kind of anticipate all of this, and you're so on their side, and you see, yeah, like kind of bad things happen, and we shouldn't really go after this one dude anymore, but also you kind of want to see that guy die, like, I'm kind of on your side. And then at the end of the book, it's like, oh, got me there, I learned my lesson. But that's what I really liked. It's the most read book from the series, because it's my favorite. I cannot give you a number how many times I've read it. This book doesn't look that bad. Like, it has like the lines and the flimsy pages and all. But I also read the library version a lot of times, and that didn't look very good at the end of it. But yeah, I really love this one. And the worst thing is, they put the culprit on the cover. They put him here. And you open this book all the time. You look at the cover, you're like, oh, what a pretty piece of art. And you read it. And then at the end, you're like, are you serious? Are you serious? Because then you really look at it and you go, oh no. So that's an additional thing, where it's like, you played me well. You hid the mean guy all along on the cover.
They got you.
Yeah. And also the book ends in like a really fantastic, big, cool battle of the Sky Pirates. That's why it's called the Battle of the Sky Galleons. In like a fantastical last big thing. And that's a battle that's being referenced throughout the other books previously.
Ooh, that's
it's like,
cool.
oh, the big battle of the Sky Galleons. And you're like, oh my god, am I gonna read about the battle of the Sky? That's something that... Yeah. And I mean, it was intended to be the last book of the series. That's why it's also like big... What would you call it? Paukenschlag in English?
Yeah.
It's like the big boom.
It's the grand finale.
Yeah. And then they couldn't control themselves and wrote 5 more books.
Yeah, this happens to everyone, really.
One of them is a collection of short stories. One is a ridiculously thick book where they said, this is the last one, guys, believe us. This is the last one. And then they wrote a blog with a story. And then they said, what if we took the story from the blog, made it bigger and better, and published it? So, it's not a total end, but it reads like a grand finale to the series. And it's in my heart, and I love it. I love it so much. I didn't want to spoiler anything, because at the far chance that somebody is still going to read this book, I don't want to take the twist away. But yeah. So what's your number one?
Well, my number one is This Is How You Lose the Time War.
Oh, yeah, right?
I love that you were like, what could it possibly be?
I was like, because I said it already.
Yeah, you were like, well, we've already talked about it, so we're done with it now. Well, we did already talk about it, so we don't need to repeat that, but...
I
love it so much. It is so... Yeah. It's also it's mostly in first place, I think, because it is also from a craft perspective just one of the best books I've read. It's just so well done, and the writing is so good. I'm gonna reread it soon, because first time I was too engrossed, but this time I want to like mark all the quotes I like, and it's gonna be like 80% of the book probably.
I was about to say,
because almost every sentence is really, really good. There are like on every page there's a sentence where you're like, dude, this is so evocative. This writing's so good. This is like, this hits, and it all the time. It's just such a good book, man. Like, what else is there to say?
I mean, when I said, this was the best one, the other ones are emotional.
Yeah. I'm also emotional about this one. Like, I am, but I don't quite have, like, the character obsession thing with them that I have with some of the others, where it's really, like, the characters that I'm super attached to. But here it's like the dynamic and the concept and the execution. It all is so well done together, and it's queer as shit. Like, it's so good. Like, what more could you possibly want, man?
Just opening a random page and reading the most well-written thing I've ever read in my whole
right.
life.
And you're like, damn, this is so good, man. It really is.
I open it up at the letter where Red confesses that they're like, oh. No, I can't agree with this first pick.
It's just so good, man.
And you know, if you look at our list and you're like, oh, this isn't pretentious enough, this is pretentious enough. If you're a pretentious person, you can absolutely read this book.
I mean, honestly, I don't read enough pretentious stuff to have a pretentious list, honestly.
I have no interest in pretentious books usually.
I'm also like, I don't know, my favorites are also just, it just depends on what flavor of brainworms you have, and then you get attached to things. Like, I don't know how else to put it, right?
The parasites, yeah.
Like, yeah, if I was into, like, high-quality pretentious stuff, then something like A Memory Called Empire would be on this. But I'm like, this is a really, really good book, and it's really well written, but it just doesn't feed the worm, man.
I did consider it because my worm has been
for you,
greatly fed.
I was actually surprised that A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet wasn't on this, because...
A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet was outwarmed by Memory Called Empire, actually. But then I was like, am I only wanting to put this on the list because it's so fresh? Right?
That's true.
Like, the endorphins are still there. But with This Is How You Lose the Time War, the endorphins just don't leave.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was my favorite book of 2023, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
It wasn't, and I was like, this is gonna be my favorite book for, like, a long time now, because it's just that good. It's kind of, like, Red and Blue are not my favorite characters, but, like, the book itself, it's so fucking good, man.
The whole thing, like, as an ensemble.
The whole package, it's just phenomenal. It like, no other words. It's just so good, man.
It's also so satisfying. It's like, it arrived, it does what it's supposed to do grandly, and then, you know, it's just, it leaves you.
It came in, served cunt, and left, and you were not dissatisfied. You were like, yeah, this was exactly as much cunt as I wanted and needed, and I'm happy now.
When I read the ending of the book, currently there was like a cover going around from like, what's the song called? It's like, you that I die with and the world. It's like a song about, you know, who you want to spend. Ends, who you want to spend your last moment with when the world explodes, basically. I was sobbing my way through the rest of the book because that song came on. I was like,
it's so fitting.
My Spotify really went off on that one.
They got you.
What's
that? Spotify with the steel chair.
It's like, it was a little bit too close to heart in that moment. It's like, I appreciate you tracking my cookies, but this is a bit too for you.
No, it's
it's a good book. To the people who don't know, it's not even 200 pages.
I was about to say it's almost
100. It's 198.
Yeah, I was like, it's almost 200. Yeah.
But
the print's not small either.
No. The pages are also. It's fast. If you sit down, you're like,
you could read this in an evening. It would change your life, and then you lie awake and you're like, damn. That's crazy, man.
That's also the Monster Calls experience for me. But yeah, This Is How You Lose the Time War is. I think I read it on several readings because it was just too.
Yeah.
My emotions were
needed
like
a moment.
running away.
It's like, this hit too hard. I need to regroup and then come back.
Reassemble. We needed a break. But yeah, technically you can read it in one nice sitting, get a good beverage, and just enjoy.
It's so solid. I
Yeah.
love it so much.
And especially if you're like a romantic, a hopeless romantic.
Yeah.
You
It's
yes, yes. That's a good list.
yeah, no, it's I love that there were many books where either of us had them in the honorary, mentions and the
Yeah.
other had it on their list. That's very funny.
Yeah. But I love that cuz we have sort of a similar taste. It's just our parasites digest them differently, you
Yeah.
know. One worm's trash is another worm's treasure. And it's with us it's more like children switching their lunchbox at school, you know.
Yeah.
You would eat your lunch, but there's a person who'd enjoy your lunch a lot more,
Yeah.
and you enjoy their lunch.
Yeah,
I think it's just
it's just,
that's the way it goes. No, I'd be excited to see if we do this in like 5 years. If this is
yeah,
still
if this
the
would
number
change
one.
a lot. I mean, it might. There's a lot of books that have like really positive reception that are on my to read list, but it also isn't about what I think the best books I've read are, right?
Yeah.
Because it's my favorites, not the books I think that are the most well written or that I would
Yeah.
recommend the most.
Oh, the list would have looked very different
Yeah,
if I
my
had
list
to
also
sort
would
it
have been
that
very
way.
different. But I also feel like general recommendations are very strange because everyone has different tastes.
Yeah.
So I would need to know a little bit about a person to make a reasonable recommendation.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously, if somebody's, like, really into S.J. Maas, then recommending them a memory called Empire isn't worth it. They're not gonna like it. Like,
Yeah,
it's not,
yeah.
it's just not that, right?
You would
Like,
need to see, yeah. You would need to see like the whole vibe of the person. You know, what kind of books do they usually enjoy? And then
Yeah.
what could you recommend them? And
obviously,
I do it the
there are
same way
people
with
who read, like, everything and have, like,
yeah.
and enjoy everything. But a lot of people do have strong preferences,
Yeah.
I think.
And I do that with reviews. If I see somebody make a review, as you said,
Yeah.
you don't know what kind of vibe does the person actually like. I
Yeah.
go through their
I'm-
profile and look at their
It's
stuff.
it's a little crazy to me that you do get some recommendations from TikTok because I'm always like, you can't trust people on TikTok because I feel like the algorithm just gives you a lot of random people in there where it's like, at least if I follow people for a while on like a blog or on YouTube or whatever, I get a feel for their taste. So even if they're like, I didn't like this book, it's like like for this and this and this reason, like without spoilers, I might still see that and be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is for me though. Like, I like it.
Yeah,
This sounds
yeah,
like
yeah.
I will like it even if you didn't, you know?
Yeah.
But if it's somebody who I have just seen for the first time on my For You page, and like the recommendations mean nothing to me, except for, the mix that it is, where it's like, if somebody recommends a book that I think is terrible, then I'm like, okay, none of your recommendations can be trusted ever.
Yeah.
You know, like if Light Lark is on your list, then
Exactly.
you are an
exactly
unreliable person. I don't know what is
Yeah.
happening up there, but I do not understand it.
That's why I stalk them for like a couple minutes and see what else they like. And sometimes I'm like, can I trust you? But some people, they write the same thing that I would be thinking. They're like, this is fun if you like a trashy little read. You know? And then I'm like, gotcha. You're getting me. You're getting me.
Yeah,
But yeah, I enjoyed talking about our list. The Edge Chronicles for me is just one of those topics where it's like, you get $1 million if you can talk about one topic for 30 minutes. I'm like, please. Like,
That's so sick. I can talk about so many things for
how
like
much
an
do I
hour.
get if I talk about something for 4 hours or
Yeah.
more? You know,
Like,
that's the...
Dude,
then
I
we're stuck
I
talking.
can write an hour-long essay on this, no problem. I am obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So...
Totally. It is very funny to me how much Naomi Novik is on my list.
It was... But, I mean, you found an author that
Yeah.
tickles the right spots in your brain.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
I
such
love...
like a valuable thing to have.
No, it's amazing. And I hope she writes more standalones, honestly. Because I love standalones, but there's not that many fantasy standalones. A lot of fantasy is series, which is like fine, but also a good number of series would have done better if they'd just been a standalone and people weren't like, oh no, this needs to be more epic and more drawn out. And it's like, no, some ideas just hit harder when they're condensed and not drawn out.
I feel like it's understandable that you have lots of series in fantasy from a story aspect. You want to build on the world, but also from like a contract standpoint.
Yeah, no, I totally get this. And I also, like, I absolutely understand if people like the world they've built and want to write more and that, like, I do get it, but as a reader it doesn't compel me. You know, I'm not interested. I love reading different, like, I love new ideas. I love stories that are finished. Like, I don't care for somebody who's like, I don't care to read a book from like a 12 book series that's like, you know, only halfway out, where I have no idea if the ending will be worth it. And it's like,
if you find out after they're all published that the ending is worth it, then it's a treat to read.
Absolutely. But
if not,
I mean, sometimes it's also just part of the like journey that can be worth it. Sometimes you know, something has something compelling. Like, I would not say that the Folk of the Air series is like great, but there are enough nuggets in there that compel me that I'm not upset about like, reading all of them, you know?
The little morsels. Yeah. The little treats.
But, like, for fantasy, again, I feel like a lot of it is, like, especially a lot of YA fantasy that has, like, trilogies or something could often have been, like, 2 books or just 1 book with some, like, you know, condensing, but...
Yeah. I feel like people are allergic to duologies, even though they work so well.
No, duologies can be so good. Like, sometimes you just don't need more story. Like, sometimes it's more than 1 book, but definitely not 3. And that's fine. Like, that's totally okay. It's
totally okay.
Totally okay.
Yeah. All right, I think with that being said, we've hopefully given you an overview of how our worms work.
Your homework is now to read all of them in the next week. Good luck.
Yeah. Just want to say, Edge Chronicles is 14 books, so buckle up. But there's pictures in it, so it's shorter.
Who needs sleep?
But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you're still listening, always interested in your favorite top 10, if you can condense it to that.
You can also, like us, include like 5 runner-ups. Yeah. It's okay. We get it. It's hard.
Give us everything.
Picking favorites is hard.
It is. Thank you, and goodbye.
Goodbye.